I think Dylan Carlson's going to be your opening day center fielder. You know, he's the guy that they trust. So I think he'll be the opening day center fielder. I think Alec Burleson's going to win that job in left. It looks like he's probably going to be your opening day left fielder. Victor Scott is very encouraging. You know, the Cardinals have really tried to pump the brakes on him. They feel like he needs another year in AAA. But I think at some point this season, Victor Scott's going to come up. He's going to factor in on this team. I don't think they want him to make the opening day roster, but I do think we will see him before the temperatures hit 100 in St. Louis, come August.
So that was John Denton earlier this week on the opening drive with Alex and T-Bone on BK. We begin the day the way that we have most days, honestly, recently from Cardinals camp, which is an update on Victor Scott, Dylan Carlson, and Alec Burleson. Good. It is the same as it's always been here in St. Louis. The conversation will once again revolve around who is starting in your outfield, and what does that mean for the Cardinals in 2024? Now, eventually, the outfield is expected to be Tommy Edman, Jordan Walker, and Lars Nootbaar. But injuries have set that aside, and so right now you don't have Tommy Edman, you don't have Lars Nootbaar. Victor Scott getting a real opportunity. Alex, yesterday a fantastic day for Victor Scott. By all accounts, a great day as well for Alec Burleson, who made a diving play in left field and was good at the plate. So how do you follow that up? Well, the Cardinals are following it up by putting Victor Scott back in center field today and in the leadoff position, and this is where I found it to be particularly interesting, Dylan Carlson getting the start today in left field, batting second. Jordan Walker getting the start in right field, batting cleanup. And Alec Burleson getting the start today at DH, batting fifth.
You know, you sound like my wife when we watch Unsolved Mysteries, and she's trying to explain to me how the gas station attendant was the one that actually murdered the missing woman. Well, you see, she saw him here at this time, and then it went this direction, and then this would be that, and that's how this connected to that.
Sure.
I'm like, what are you talking about? It's called Unsolved Mysteries. The police couldn't figure it out, and you're going to figure it out after 45 minutes? That's what you just sounded like.
I figured out the Cardinals outfield. I'm pretty confident.
No, you didn't, because guess what? The mystery man, the serial killer that nobody knows about, it's John Mozeliak. And just when you think, I've got it figured out, guys, Victor Scott's starting in center field to open day. No. Well, we got to be patient with him, and he'll start in Memphis.
It was Professor Plum with the candlestick in
the library. Always the library.
We always knew it. That was the way that this murder came to an end.
You made a reference to Clue.
I'm glad you figured it out. It was Clue.
I didn't know if he was going to be able to follow that.
No, my grandpa ended up working. We played that a lot when I was growing up.
I thought he was going to say, how did you know about my professor in Only?
I think that the Cardinals don't listen to anything they say. We always talk about this, right? Don't listen to their words, listen to their actions. The Cardinals, we're going to be aggressive. We're going to be aggressive. You will get Lance Lynn, you will get Kyle Gibson, and you will like it. Ta-da! Listen to their actions. They will show you what they are doing more than they will tell you what they are doing. And for the Cardinals in the last week or so, since they have had the come to Jesus moment of, all right, yeah, this Tommy Edman thing is serious. We're probably not going to have him for opening day. All right, yeah, we got the MRI results back. Lars Nootbaar, non-displaced rib fractures. It's not ideal, okay, guys? Since then, they have been telling you with their actions, all right, we have to give serious consideration to this Victor Scott thing. I think previously it was like yeah, he's having a good spring. We'll see him in July. But right now, it's serious, man. When they are continuously putting out a lineup that has Victor Scott at the top and having him in center field over Dylan Carlson, that matters. They want to get Dylan Carlson reps in center if he's truly going to be your opening day center fielder. The most valuable thing this time of the year is reps. And so to give reps to a guy that really might not break camp with your roster, like that's still a real possibility in center field, that means something to me. Alex, how are you reading the way that they're writing the lineup card lately?
I mean, it very much is interesting of how they're going about this, because you don't put him out there as much as you are, and you don't shift other guys around if you're not really leaning towards Victor Scott starting in center field. So I completely know where you guys are coming from, and I hope that is the case, because I've been very adamant about if you're trying to put your best team on the field, Victor Scott should be it. I do think Alec Burleson has forced the issue a little bit more of like, hey, we're going to have to find a way to get this bat into the lineup. I get the listen to their actions, not their words, but more times than not, the words of John Mozeliak are steadfast, especially when it comes to roster decisions. If they're going to stay patient with somebody, they're going to stay patient with somebody. They don't like to rush their prospects. And I know Jordan Walker was the guy that opened camp last year. That one felt like it forced their hand. I don't know if Victor Scott's going to force their hand in the sense of, well, his defense is incredible, his base running is outstanding, but we got Dylan Carlson and Alec Burleson, and we want them in the lineup. I don't think Victor
Scott is forcing their hand. I think the injuries are forcing their hand. And that's where I'll disagree a little bit. Like, I think last year, the Mason Wynn conversation would have been a lot different if both Tommy Edman and Paul DeJong were hurt. Then maybe they would have had to come into opening day with Mason Wynn as their starting shortstop. Now, I don't think he would have remained there. I think we would have seen struggles like we did at the end of last year with him as the starting center fielder and at the plate specifically. And eventually, you would have had to make the move back to one of Edman or DeJong. But I think they could have opened camp or opened the regular season with him because he had an awesome spring training last year, if you guys remember. I think the same thing is what's happening right now with Victor Scott. He opened their eyes. The injuries have opened their minds. And now their hearts have been fulfilled by the idea of Victor Scott being the opening day center fielder. Did that work?
Was I just casted in a Loves movie?
Did that work? Did that play?
I was a little uncomfortable when you said it, but T-Bone and I locked eyes, so that's why I was uncomfortable.
I think that there's a real chance now. And if they're seriously considering it, man, if it's an actual open conversation, open competition, I mean, one player has been better in spring than the other. And it ain't hard to see which one it is, but it might not be that simple. I thought Kyle Reese, who covers the Cardinals minor leagues on Twitter, had a great thread yesterday on the downside to this kind of a choice. And there is downside. Let's not act like it's all hunky-dory. It's possible they get into the regular season, and this was Kyle Reese's main point here. I'm just summing it up. He looks bad at the plate. He looks overmatched at the plate. And it's possible he can still fake it because, as we saw yesterday, he can lay down a bunt. He can find a way to, hey, there's one pitch I can hit, and I'm just focusing on that one pitch. It's possible he can fake it at the plate for a month or so. The problem is, does that create bad habits? Does that get him to where Dylan Carlson was? Does that get him to where many other Cardinals prospects have been in the past, where there are these hyped ideas of what they could eventually become, and then they get here and we're like, that ain't great. Like, hold on, this is the guy that we were told about? If that happens and the Cardinals break him mentally early on this year, that will have long-lasting effects on a player that should be super exciting, super promising. So that's the downside. The upside is, hey, his defense excellent. His base running is going to be a real factor for you. And his offense might not be bad. It might be around or slightly below league average. And if that's the player that you get, it's probably worth it in my opinion. But we cannot pretend that there is no downside to a decision like this because there is. It is a real possibility that mentally he changes his approach based on what he's seeing at the big league level. And he's never even seen AAA pitching, much less major league pitching.
Yeah. Sorry, T-Bone. I want them to give him a shot because I want to see what it looks like. And if it doesn't look good, you have something to go back to and you can go let him go work on it. What I don't want to happen is to give him a shot and keep forcing the issue up here. I don't think that will happen, especially for how John Mozeliak operates. I want to see what it looks like because through spring training, it's looked ready for major leagues.
Agreed.
And the reason that I'm willing to take the shot at it, even if there is that risk that we just talked about, if he ends up not hitting here and he ends up just breaking mentally and can't end up hitting major league pitching, I always know his defense is going to play. And I always know at some point.
And his base running.
Exactly. Like, I think the worst case scenario for Victor Scott is like Billy Hamilton 2.0, to where he probably doesn't hit very well, but man, you've got a great defensive center fielder that when he does get on base, causes all kinds of havoc. Best case scenario, though, he could win like Rookie of the Year this year. He ends up taking this job and running with it and never looks back and never gives it back to Dylan Carlson or Tommy Edman. I think the issue that happened with Dylan Carlson is once he couldn't hit right-handed pitching, he wasn't great defensively. So there is no fallback option for Dylan Carlson. Now it is just essentially, all right, I guess we've got like a good outfielder that can hit lefties. There's no fallback to something that he is still great at. And that's where I would say, like, I understand the risk with Victor Scott. Same as I understand. They're running the same risk with Mason Wynn, by the way.
Yep.
If Mason Wynn doesn't adjust to Major League pitching, all of a sudden there's a legitimate conversation a month into the season of, is this still Mason Wynn's job, or do we turn to Brandon Crawford if he's playing well? And I would say, because he is elite defensively, it's the same conversation as I just said with Victor Scott. And I'm willing to take that risk because I think he gives you the best possible opportunity for Victor Scott and the best center fielder defensively for the St. Louis Cardinals.
And you guys know my theory on this is always like, I think experience is valuable. Like, doing radio is valuable, right? T-Bone, you're a young person in this industry. It's valuable for you to continue to get reps. When Alex is out, when I'm out, it's valuable for you to get the opportunities to be one of the co-hosts on this show. The same thing is true, like, if you're in sales, if you are on sales calls regularly, it's valuable for you to be a part of that experience. If you're looking for management opportunities, well, try managing people somewhere, right? In baseball, the same is true. If you want to be a major leaguer, well, eventually you're going to have to experience what it means to be a major leaguer. That means experiencing the travel. It means experiencing staying in 5-star hotels. It means experiencing what it's like to have money, like real money, for the first time in your life. It means experiencing the failure of what that looks like when you're going 0 for 20 over a 7-game period. What is that like? What is it like to play in front of 50,000 people on opening day here in St. Louis? All of these are things that eventually Victor Scott will have to experience. I do think it's valuable for him to get those things out of the way right now. It could come with some failures. In fact, it almost certainly will come with some failures. But down the road, I think they will pay off for him because everything we've heard about him is this guy's got a really good head on his shoulders. And if that continues, I think it's worth bringing. I think it's worth the risk, personally. For me, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, I think the risk is worth the potential reward here.
Well, and let's be honest about this. You sold this entire fan base on the leadership elements that you just brought to this team in the offseason. You signed Lynn and Gibson and Matt Carpenter and Brandon Crawford. You brought in the Gentlemen's Club because you were trying to add experience and life lessons to a group of younger players. Why wouldn't you want this kid playing with that group? Why wouldn't you want him around Carpenter and Crawford and all of these players so that he can learn just like Mason Wynn is going to learn?
Last thing on this before we get out of here. We'll, by the way, talk to Eddie Olczyk coming up at 11:45 today. TNT NHL broadcaster. Super excited to talk to him, get his thoughts on this Blues team heading into tonight's game. If Victor Scott were to win the center field job, do you guys agree he should start basically every day when he's up?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If that is the case, then let's move on to left field for a moment. Are you guys okay with platooning it? I know Cardinals fans hate the idea, generally speaking, of them kind of piecing things together. They want a set lineup every day. But Dylan Carlson has mostly struggled against right-handed pitching. Well, that's where Alec Burleson should be able to help you. Meanwhile, Alec Burleson, not a great defender. So against those left-handed pitchers, maybe you put a guy in there in Dylan Carlson who has consistently hit against lefties and gives you better defense out there in left field. Are you guys okay with them piecing things together in left field that way early on in the season?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's the perfect way to go about it because not one player gives you the feeling of, oh, well, that guy needs to be in there every single day. I am A-okay with Alec Burleson seeing all of the righties and Dylan Carlson seeing all of the lefties because I think you're getting the same amount of defense from both sides, and you know what the offense looks like for both sides when they go up against the favorable pitcher.
Yeah, I would be okay with platooning it early on in the season, especially till Nootbaar gets back. And then I think it becomes a real conversation between Carlson and Burleson because there's no denying Alex Burleson's been the better bat in spring training so far than Dylan Carlson. Carlson has not hit the ball very well. Burleson's been on fire. Where I would be curious to know is if Nootbaar misses, will they start Scott against lefties if he's up here? Because we've seen the cautious approach from Ollie Marmol. Gorman didn't originally start hitting against lefties. Donovan and Nootbaar have had spurts where they don't hit against left-handed pitching under Ollie Marmol. If that's the case, I guess Burleson sticks in left, and then you just put Carlson in center field on a platoon. I don't know, but I do think somewhere along the line you're going to see a platoon, and it probably is left field.
Somebody on the text line said, guys, there's not enough roster spots for what you're talking about. Yeah, there is.
If Newbar's out to begin the year.
It would just have to, and that's the only reason any of this is a conversation. If Newt and Edman are on the injured list, you bring up a 40-man roster spot. That will be the move that you have to make, because you got to bring up Victor Scott in this scenario. But if you do, you just DFA one of Alfonso Rivas, Jared Young, Jose Fermin, Lucan Baker, or Michael Ciani. I think it's pretty easy. I think you just go with Michael Ciani because it's a one-for-one replacement on the 40-man of the next center fielder to take the role that Michael Ciani was previously expected to hold. Left-handed bats, like all of it. It's just one-for-one for those two guys. So you can absolutely make it work. Just a matter of if they want to. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show today. You guys can always check us out on YouTube as well. YouTube.com/101ESPN-STL is where you can go to find us. We've got the Graveyard YouTube chat over there. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we'll get to questions and answers. We're getting to it early today because Eddie Olczyk is going to join us coming up at 11:45. Next, though, Alex, it is a blues-heavy first hour of the show today. If any games matter the rest of the way for your Blues, it's this one. We'll tell you why next year on 101 ESPN. Hey, it's BK. Alex, yesterday, me and Baby Boy went on a little bit of walk around the neighborhood once again, and I was able to do the thing that we all do, but we do it quietly. We're judging everybody else's lawn. When people walk by my house, they don't have to judge it any longer because when I moved in, the yard was a mess. But over the last couple of years, Green Envy Lawn Care has me taken care of. They plant during the fall. They get all the fertilizer going around this time of the year. Alex, they are the best in the business, and they know Missouri lawn's better than just about anybody.
And they're the best in the business because they use products that are only formulated for Missouri soil, for Missouri weather, for the turf types. So anytime you go buy the over-the-counter stuff, the generic cheap products, they're not going to work on your lawn. You're going to get the crabgrass. You're going to get all of the weeds, and you're going to be like, what the hell? I thought I followed all the directions. You got to get with the right company that uses the right products, and that's Green Envy. They have service professionals who are licensed applicators certified by the Missouri Department of Agriculture. They come out, they service your lawn, they tell you what you need to do to keep it in that top shape, and then, of course, you're loving your backyard, your front yard, all spring and summer. Check them out, 636-757-1600. That's Green Envy, 636-757-1600.
you want to play and have fun in March and April, May and June. And so this is the time of year where I hope our players find it being the most enjoyable. Usually you should come to the rink with a smile on your face, with the desire and the excitement to compete. And for whatever reason, we haven't had that desire and excitement to compete the last little while. And I hope they can find it back.
That was Doug Armstrong last week talking about the Blues not finding their joy in their game. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. Alex, a big game tonight. Blues versus the LA Kings. And I don't say that half-heartedly. If there's any game the rest of the season that matters, it is this one. Because if you are somebody that still is holding out hope that this team can find a way into the postseason, I think the Kings are the team that they're going to have to jump. Right now, technically speaking, by points percentage, Vegas is holding on to that last spot in the wild card. I don't think that's going to sustain. I think Vegas is a better team than the LA Kings are, and I think eventually LA will drop down. They'll be that team that you have to fight for that final spot with. Right now, they have 77 points. You have 69 points. This is a 4-point swing one way or the other tonight based on the results of this game, depending on if it goes at overtime or not. But if the Blues win in regulation, you are now 6 points back of the LA Kings. You can convince yourself that you could make that up down the stretch. If you end up leaving tonight and they win and you are 10 points back of them, good luck. You're done. You're done. It's over. So this is the game we've been told all year long. They care. They're trying to compete. They still want to make the playoffs. They believe in themselves. They know they have everything in that locker room that they need. I want to see it tonight. I want to see it on the ice tonight, and if they don't have a performance that indicates that, the way that they didn't against Nashville, that's the game that I always point back to of, if you can't win that one, how can I believe that you're going to win it when it matters? Then it will be a reminder, once again, that this season has come and gone.
Yeah, I think for a lot of Blues fans, and I'm not going to say all of them, because I know that there are some Blues fans out there that believe that this team can get into the playoffs. And, I mean, when you get the goaltending tandem of Binnington and Hofer, you're a dangerous team. But to a lot of the Blues fans, it's all white noise when they hear the comments from the players and coaches following a game, especially if it's after a 4-0 loss to the Rangers or getting blown out by the New Jersey Devils. And then you hear them say, well, yeah, I mean, we want to win. We're trying to win. And Blues fans are like, it doesn't look like it. And then you had the performance against Boston. And look, they played well in Boston, but you lost your game in the third period. Boston had a push, and you got saved by your goaltender. These are one of those desperation games. This is, to the quote of what Doug Armstrong was talking about, of these are games that you should look forward to coming to the games. I think it was T-Bone that referenced it, watching Nashville and Minnesota play against each other. I mean, it was a juggernaut of a game when those two played against each other, because Minnesota was desperate for playoff hope, and Nashville was riding that 8-game win streak, or a buzz that was one of the best in the NHL. If you don't come out with the same desperation that Minnesota had when they played against Nashville, saying, if we lose this game, there is very slim chances of us making the playoffs. If you don't come up with that, then the final 17 games of the season is all white noise. Anything you say of, yeah, we're trying out there, bounces didn't go our way, or we just didn't have the fast start, that's all going to be looked at as, well, this is the problem with this team. So you're right. I mean, again, statistically and mathematically, you're still going to have a chance no matter what, because the Western Conference is just so bad. But this is the type of game that if you don't see the Blues play like a playoff-esque type of team, you know who they are. And it's a team that might get in if everything's going their way, but probably is going to be talking about a draft lottery pick.
I find it to be really interesting that this is a game against LA for so many different reasons, because this is the team that Doug Armstrong has mentioned a number of times. T-Bone, we have the cut from his press conference availability after firing Craig Berube. This is the team that he's been saying, I want to emulate.
The team that I look to, like I'd like to emulate right now, or even be quicker, is LA. You know, I saw the way like New Jersey and Buffalo and Detroit did it. That's 5, 6, 7 years. LA did it very quickly, and I'd like to do it very quickly.
They did it quickly, except that it's not working. Like, their plan was supposed to be for this to be the year that they contend for a Stanley Cup championship. And this team ain't doing that. This team, if we're talking about, hey, this game between the Blues and the Kings could determine, potentially, which of those two ends up making the playoffs, that means that things have been a failure this year for the Kings. In 2018-19, that team finished in last place in their division. The Blues, by the way, are not tanking the way that they did.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, you can't do what they did unless you're getting the 5th overall pick, the 2nd overall pick, the 8th overall pick.
Yeah, it's different. The way that they tanked, they went all the way to the bottom. The Blues are just kind of middling still. They're somewhere in the middle of where the NHL is. But if we just set that aside for a second, they finished in 8th in their division, 7th in their division, 6th in their division, and then 2022 made the playoffs again, lost in the first round. Made the playoffs last year, lost in the first round. This was supposed to be the year that they pushed. They went out and made that big trade, ended up really failing on that because Pierre-Luc Dubois has been terrible for them. He has been for them basically what Kevin Hayes has been for the Blues, but it didn't feel that way early on. The first half of the season, man, 27-4 in their first 31 games. But since then, they're 13-13-7. They fired their coach midway through the year. It's been a disaster. How did the Blues avoid that? How do the Blues emulate what the Kings did, but then also get over the top in the way that the Kings have failed to do?
Well, first thing they got to do is make sure you have a goaltender, which, check mark. I mean, looking, LA's biggest problem, and once again, we're firing a coach for a general manager issue here. You didn't have a goaltender. You were relying on Cam Talbot, who in the first chunk of the season was awesome. But if you look at post-All-Star break, Cam Talbot has legitimately been one of the bottom goaltenders in the National Hockey League. He's got a .905 save percentage, but that's how he's performed in these last few games. If you go just from the All-Star break till the end of February, you're talking .869 save percentage. Like, that's awful. That's part one. Check mark. Blues got that. Part two, it's a roster construction issue. And Joey and I have talked about this on pre-games in terms of, you know, how do you get the joy back? And you got to make sure everybody's on the same page. And I've asked Joe, can one or two players suck the joy out from a roster? And he said, absolutely. If one or two guys are on a different wavelength as your roster, then it doesn't matter what you're trying to accomplish because there's always pieces that fall short. Mike McKenna had talked about this. I think it was on one of our hits. And he was talking about the Nashville Predators and how they switched so fast. They got rid of problems in the locker room. They traded away Matt Duchene, who's working right now in Dallas, but that's a really veteran, strong locker room. And then they got rid of Ryan Johansson. And guys, Ryan Johansson was cut by Colorado and then waived by Philadelphia. Pierre-Luc Dubois had been on two separate teams in a matter of 4 years and got moved on by both of them. And the LA Kings traded for that. It's no coincidence that Drew Doughty this season was calling out his team, saying we've got guys who are more concerned about their points than the wins. And I think that's a Blues problem. So how do you avoid being the LA Kings? You have to get rid of those types of players if you have them in your locker room. And you should know by now, 2 straight seasons of this types of inconsistency, and you got to avoid trading for those types of players.
That was the other thing that I was going to add. When you decide that it is time to push, you better be right about the players that you push for. I would also add this. If you're going to give out the extensions, you better be right about the guys that you're giving extensions to. You can't just do it because they're young. Pierre-Luc Dubois, 25 years old. He fits into every criteria that you would want. If you're a general manager of, hey, this guy's a point producer, he's a top-line caliber player, unbelievably talented, fits into the age range of what we're looking for, all of that. But then you think about the person, he doesn't fit in to what you're trying to accomplish here. So you got to be right when you decide that it is officially time to push all in. The Kings were wrong. They got it wrong with him, and now they're stuck because of it, potentially. The Blues can't allow themselves to get stuck the way that the Kings did, and that should influence what they decide to do going into the offseason. Blues versus the Kings tonight. Pre-game coverage with Alex begins right here on your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN, starting at 5:30. Puck drop for this one. A legitimately big game for the Blues coming up tonight at 6:30. In 15 minutes, we're breaking that game down, breaking these Blues down with Eddie Olczyk. He's going to join us coming up at 11:45. Questions and Answers is next here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my dentist, 100 West Dental. Look, if you've been in the market for Invisalign, this is the place for you. And if you don't know about Invisalign, what it is it's just basically a scan of your teeth. They put this kind of like retainer-esque in your mouth. It's clear. It goes right over your teeth, and it straightens them up for you. You get that straight teeth that you're looking for. They've got a huge offer right now at 100 West Dental, where if you mention my name, Alex Ferrario, you'll get $1,000 off of their Invisalign package. And if you're on the fence about this, I had a friend who went out there to check this out because he's looking for Invisalign. What they have is a digital scanner that shows you the simulation of what your teeth will look like before you even do it. And he said it was the coolest thing he's ever seen, and it really forced him into doing the Invisalign package. And that's what I love about 100 West Dental. The most modern technology, patient experience is so important, and Dr. Pryor and his team are about the preventative procedures, making sure they're on top of early detections of issues with your mouth and taking care of you and your oral health in the long run. So check them out. You can book online, 100westdental.com, or give them a call at 636-585-0100. 100 West Dental. Get with the best at 100 West.
Terror Headers here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Blues back in action tonight as they host the LA Kings. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 5:30 with Alex Ferrario and Joey Vitale. Then Joey will join Chris Kerber for puck drop at 6:30. Cardinals back in spring training action today as they take on the Twins at 12:05. Zach Thompson gets a start for St. Louis. This Sports Update was driven by Johnny Londoff. Find your road shop 24/7 at londoff.com, londoffAutoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
Three 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. You can get them in as well over on the YouTube chat. The graveyard is what we affectionately like to call it. YouTube.com/101ESPN STL is where you go to find it. That is where you can both watch and chat on our YouTube chat. All right, guys, let's get into questions and answers from the 314. Alex, do you think there's any chance that the Blues will sign David Perron in the offseason and let him finish his career here in St. Louis?
No. I think Detroit's going to re-sign David Perron because they know that that's a dude that you need around your players as you're trying to compete, and he helps. If he becomes a free agent, I guess never say never. The guy's done it 3 times now, come back to the Blues. But I wonder if that bridge was burned when they didn't offer him a contract in the final offseason. I will say if there's a player that I could see making a reunion with the Blues, Pat Maroon. Probably only have 1 or 2 more years before he
Where
calls
does he fit, though, with this current version of the Blues?
I think you put him on the 4th line.
But who do you move?
Walker.
Put him up or
no,
put him
just
down in the
have him as an extra forward.
Okay.
I think if you're Doug Armstrong, you need some personalities around this locker room next season. And Maroon's 35, will be 36 next year. He's already making $800K. I don't know if a team that's making a cup run would go after him, but if you're him, would you want to end it in St. Louis?
Somebody said, any thoughts on Aroldis Chapman? Nah, man.
What'd he do? I saw a video.
Yep.
That's
it.
one?
Yep, that's the one. I'm good. Not touching that one.
Well,
you shouldn't have either.
He was.
Questions and answers. Guys, I know the answer to this, but Cease's mom has...
What happened?
Don't... If you're at work, don't Google it.
Cease's mom? Are you combining 2 stories?
Guys, I know the answer, but Cease's name has come up again in trade rumors. Is there any chance that the Cardinals will get involved? We'll get into this a little bit longer coming up at 12 o'clock. No, I don't think so.
No. I wish, but no.
I just searched it just to see the comments from people.
No.
Man, sometimes Twitter never disappoints, but no.
I still don't know what we're talking about.
You got to look it up
during commercial break.
Again, don't do it on your work computer. Do it on your phone.
Oh, shoot!
Do it on your phone. Be careful out there.
John, I'm sorry, John.
If your boss is looking over your shoulder right now, I wouldn't recommend searching it in your Twitter videos. All right. From the 314.
Hey, Ryder's looking at it too.
Alex, if Victor Scott makes the roster and runs with the opportunity, what's the plan when everybody ends up healthy? Feels like another potential outfield logjam. Somebody asked us on the text line earlier, and my answer was the boring. Those things tend to work themselves out.
Yeah, we said that about the defense, and it didn't work themselves out, and Kessel could have earned you 4 wins.
It means that one of Alec Burleson or Dylan Carlson will be optioned.
Yeah.
And I would lean more towards Dylan Carlson for how Alec Burleson's bat has played.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah, right now, I would say, yeah. And Edmund becomes your 4th outfielder / Swiss Army knife.
And at that point, Brandon Crawford is probably DFA'd as well. Those are probably the 2 moves. Because you got to make 2 of them. You got to make one for Lars Nootbaar, the other for Tommy Edman. Edman would be your replacement at that point for Brandon Crawford.
Sorry, Crawford.
And you would lose one of Alec Burleson or Dylan Carlson.
I mean, the odds are that Crawford has better numbers than Carpo. We can't get rid of him.
Correct. And
team cheerleader.
I've got a backup shortstop now with Tommy Edman.
Yeah, sure, that too.
Coming up in 15 minutes, we will talk a bit about the possibility of the Cardinals adding Dylan Cease. It ain't happening, guys. But we'll talk about the teams that are involved and why the Cardinals should probably be among them. We'll get into that all coming up at the top of the hour. But coming up next, we'll get back to the Blues. Eddie Olczyk is going to be on the call tonight for TNT Blues versus the Kings. What has he made of where the Blues are at in their life cycle as an organization? How do they get out of this muddy middle? We'll talk to Eddie Olczyk about that coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
Alongside Brandon Kiley and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Alex Ferrario. We're back on BK and Ferrario here on your home for the Blues, 101 ESPN. Tonight, Blues and Kings dropping the puck at Enterprise Center. 6:30 puck drop with Chris Kerber and Joe Vitale. I've got your first Community Credit Union pregame skate beginning at 5:30 here on 101 ESPN. And we head to our guest line now, who is going to be on the call tonight for TNT. He was on the call back a couple of weeks ago when the Blues took on the Edmonton Oilers. Of course, very familiar with the Blues as he's a former NHLer himself. Eddie Olczyk, one of our favorites, joining us now on BK and Ferrario. Eddie, it's great to catch up with you, sir, and we're looking forward to this matchup tonight. How are you?
I'm doing well, Alex. BK, thanks for having me. Nice to be in your city. And, this is must-win time for the Blues, obviously, and especially when you're chasing a team, like the Kings. And I know things can change and what have you, but you got teams above you, and you got a chance to get 2 points. We know the 3-point game in the National Hockey League is why it makes it so close and just tough to jump over teams because of the 3-point game. And, I know they got Vegas right around the corner, and those are the kind of the two teams that, that I'm looking at here. And obviously I think Nashville's on the schedule as well. So, you got to win these games and teams that are in the playoffs right now. And I'm sure for the Blues, they'd like to get off to a really good start against a team that has been playing some pretty good hockey here recently and had a nice win the other night against the Islanders. So it'll be fun to be able to call the game on TNT tonight.
Absolutely. Eddie, what stuck out to you? Because you've called some Blues games this season. Of course, you've seen plenty. What has stuck out to you in terms of where they were at the beginning of the season and where they're at right now?
Yeah, I don't think that there's too many changes. Obviously, it was sad to see Chief get Chief get fired, but we've got Chief on our team now, so we're in good hands. To have Craig Berube with us at TNT whenever he gets the opportunity to do some studio work, and it's fun to see him on there, and he brings obviously the newness and the freshness of having standing behind a bench, and obviously Stanley Cup champion here in St. Louis. But I don't think tactically there's a lot that has changed. we talked to Coach Bannister when you mentioned, Alex, when the Blues were in Edmonton. I guess it was almost 2 weeks ago now. But, not a lot of systematically has changed, but, it's a different voice. It's, it's just different coaches are able to get guys to respond in different ways. And, I think the key obviously is the ability to be able to defend and to be able to, to make that quick transition that the Blues like to play. And that all starts with the back end, right? Parayko and Leddy obviously are huge. Justin Falk did not play in that game in Edmonton, so I saw that he was back the other night, and a veteran guy, and certainly knows his way around the rink. And but when you play against a team like LA, you got to close. You got to close quickly. You got to be able to transition from defense to offense very quickly, and they're very good in a neutral zone. And again, here's another team that made a coaching change and hasn't changed a whole heck of a lot, but their MO has been, that's being the Kings, is to really be a good team through the middle of the ice, not give any, free chances or odd man situations. And, I think what the Blues have that a lot of teams would like to play with is to play on their toes and to pinch in their D. And if Blues fans remember 2 weeks ago in Edmonton, they got off to the terrific start, and their defense were really pressing up, and they were forcing a pretty darn good team in Edmonton who loves the puck possession game to play in their own zone. And then, the Blues just couldn't get that separation goal. 2 goals it's not what it is. Not like, probably back in my day when you got a 2-goal lead, you felt pretty good that you were going to be able to, to win the game. But now, you gotta, if you could get it to 3-0, you really like your chances regardless of who you're playing. So long-winded, I think for the Blues, their key when they're playing well, to me, it comes from the back end. And if they can, play on their toes and press up and join the play and create on the offensive side, they give themselves a really good chance. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say it. Man, I love Braden Shen. I mean, he's always been one of my favorite players to watch and to call games. But I got to say that kid Thomas is pretty good too. Robert Thomas is. I think he's really come into his own, and I think he is on the verge of a superstar in the National Hockey League. And I think the one thing I'd like to see him do is obviously shoot the puck a little bit more. Especially on the power play. Like I thought the other night in that game against Boston, he had a chance to, I think it was Boston. I've been watching too many games here lately, but, he had a chance to drift the puck on his strong side from about, probably 35 feet out right at the top of the circle there. But then he tried to force something over, I think, to Kerber, and obviously they have great chemistry. But, when he gets that puck, he's magic, and it's awfully fun to watch him play. So I'm looking forward to being in the building tonight to watch him play as well.
Eddie, I know that Alex wants to ask you about that top line, so we'll get to that here in just a minute. But I want to go back to what you were saying about the blue line with Colton Parayko. I remember when you were on the call for that game between the Blues and Edmonton, you mentioned him a number of times and how he kills plays. He has become a lightning rod of discussion here in St. Louis in recent seasons. Previously because of underwhelming performance. This year because people have been impressed by what he's been able to do. He looks healthy once again. When you watch Colton Parayko and you have the context of what's happening around the league with defensemen, we're so focused in on the Blues. How do you view him? Is he a legitimate number one defenseman, a legit top pair? How do you view Colton Parayko relative to his peers?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there, BK, but I think the last part of your question is, yes, I think he is and can be and should be a top pair guy. Now, look at, all players, and then when I say all, and this is all in due respect, players have blemishes, some more than others. There is no, we got some great players, but there is no perfect player. Colton Parayko certainly has blemishes, just like any other top defenseman in the National Hockey League. It was funny that game, BK. I mentioned like how good he was. Obviously, he was playing at home that night in Edmonton, and in St. Albert, which is not too far from Edmonton, and then I think I mentioned him a couple of times, and I was doing a game with Johnny Forsland, and then all of a sudden, the third period, he put out a couple of pizzas there for the Oilers, and all of a sudden they were having chances and looking to put the puck in the back of the net. So, I think to me, again, outsider, but again, doing games, watching games, trying to keep my pulse around the league is just, I think that the biggest question mark has been the consistency aspect. And I'm sure for the diehards and everybody watching, every day, is that, that consistency aspect, because when you see it, you sit there and go, geez, the guy's, he's 6'11", he's 212. The guy can shoot the puck. He can, it's just like, what doesn't he have, and look at, I think there are times, you like him to see, you like him to play like Chris Pronger more every once in a while, but then he has the ability to go ahead and give you an Al McInnes. Like the consistency part to me is, and that's, I think it's always been the question. And look at it, it might be that. Look at any time that there are, rumors or speculations about, trades and whatever, it always kind of seems, at least the circles that I run, is, there are teams that I'm sure that have probably worn out the path to Army cell phone Doug Armstrong, the terrific GM of your Blues. And I think there are a lot of teams that obviously would move a lot to be able to, get their hands on a guy that seems to have the skating, the size, the shot, the hockey IQ when it comes to, playing on the offensive side of it. And then look at, like I said, sometimes mistakes happen, right? Like pinching in or not engaging or not tying up. That happens to every defenseman. And just to let Blues fans know that this is not just this isn't just a Colton Parayko thing. Like, you have this in every city in the National Hockey League. And quite frankly, being a huge sports fan, I think there seems to always be a lightning rod player for for your favorite team and whatever city that it is. But and I think there were a couple of times in my career where I happened to be the lightning rod guy there, and not too long I was ended up shipping out of town. So again, long-winded. I really think a lot of Colton Parayko, and but again, the consistency aspect for me is when it is there. He seems to have that ability of being a difference maker. And when you have a guy like Nick Leddy, who that I know very well from his days in Chicago and think the world of, there's that steadying presence, right? And I'm sure for Parayko, when Pietrangelo was here, and some of the older D, and whether it was Krug was here at the time, I'm sure those type of guys certainly helped him. And hey, the guy's won a Stanley Cup, so he knows what it takes, and he's a really, really important part of this franchise. And when he's playing well, I think it goes hand in hand with the Blues.
Ed, you mentioned Robert Thomas and how he's kind of trending towards superstar status, and the top line has been the area of discussion surrounding this Blues team and their lack of offense. When you see Thomas and Kyrou and Buchnevich when they're together, do you see a top line in the NHL?
Well, it sure seems like it to me. Now, maybe I'm just catching them on, the right nights, or, again, highlights are one thing. But, when you watch the game, again, I watch the game differently when I'm watching at home as a fan than I do when, then I'm in the building, right? Because I'm working, and like tonight it'll be a little bit different. But, there's just some guys that you gravitate towards, and you just seem to follow them a little bit more. But when those guys are going, at least it looks like to me is that they do have, they do have that ability. I mean, Buchnevich he's a sneaky, big, grindy type of guy where, he's not afraid to engage, he's going to get engaged physically. Again, at least that's what I see. Kyrou and Thomas are more the, looking to set up and facilitate and the give and goes. And, but Buchnevich, I think, opens up space, and he also has the ability to be able to, to make plays. So, yes, I believe that they have the ability, to be a top line and be a go-to. And look, there's no doubt. I mean, teams, when they play the Blues, and it's been scouting reports, forever, is like, look at these guys are going to get their chances. Like, they're going to get it just because, they're talented and they're good. Just don't give them any freebies, right? Like, don't turn the puck over at the attacking blue line. Don't make any hope plays with these guys on the ice, because as all offensive players do, regardless of what anybody says, all offensive players, and I would put Thomas and Kyrou, right there with this, overall blanket that I'm going to say is that, those guys are wired to err on the side of aggression when it comes to offensively. Cheating probably is a little too strong of a word, but like if it's being on the right side or the wrong side of the puck to create offense, I'll guarantee you there's a pretty good chance they're going to be on the wrong side to take the chances and go. And that's just the way that it is. I mean, I don't care. Take the top scorers right now: Kucherov, McKinnon, and McDavid. I think those are the top three. But don't yell at me or give me another minus if I'm wrong on that. But those guys, they have the look. That's the best defense in the world, is it not? But is when you have the rock on your stick, and those guys have it a lot. But if they see a play developing, and just say the Blues are playing the Oilers, and the Blues have the puck, but McDavid starts sniffing like, okay, I can see the options that are happening here, and the only one that's going to happen is we're going to get possession of the puck. So I'm going to start moving on the offensive side and go from there. And that's what separates these guys. That's why they're getting paid the big money, is because they have that instinct and err on the side of offense. And you got to know. I mean, there's a time and a place. And I think that especially for Thomas and Kyrou, is that learning when it's okay to go out there and I don't want to say just kill the clock, but just go out there and be on the right side of the puck the whole shift. Because if you start trying to force things, that's when trouble happens. And I made mention of the power play, and I think I'm going to show the clip tonight because I just think, I know the power play numbers have been obviously disappointing this year, but I think that, to show the clip where, again, this is my opinion, doesn't mean it's right, but again, something that I saw, and I saw it in Edmonton, is, I think there's the teaching aspect for a guy like Robert Thomas, because that's what I'm talking about, is like when it's sometimes there's not a better play. Sometimes it's okay to drift the puck from 30 feet out or 35 feet out on a power play. I know you're trying to, make the beautiful pass and pass the puck into the back of the net, but if you can establish a shot mentality, because I think once Thomas, again, this is my feel, is I think once he realizes that the more he shoots in being, selective that way, those passing lanes that not a lot of guys can see and would try are going to open up even more. Because I think when you're out there against them, there's probably a better than 50-50 chances that he's going to go ahead and distribute the puck instead of shooting it himself, if that makes any sense. So I just think that, that line has the ability, and they've got some, like I said, every player, every line, every defensive pair has some blemishes, some more than others, but that to me is, when I watch them, at least that line's got a little bit of everything, and it's really fun to watch.
Yeah, well, great breakdown, Eddie. We really appreciate you taking some time out of your day hopping on. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the broadcast and seeing you at Enterprise Center later on this evening. Thanks again.
Okay, guys, and thanks for the nice weather. Boy, oh boy, it's beautiful outside.
I know. If only
I might have to show up in a golf shirt tonight.
I was just going to say, if only there wasn't a game tonight, Eddie. Otherwise, it'd be 18 holes, right?
Yeah, well, I might end up at FanDuel Racing if that was the case, but we'll leave that for another day. So, all right, guys, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much. Eddie Olczyk, he's going to be on the TNT broadcast tonight, one of our favorite color commentators in the National Hockey League. Appreciate him taking some time joining us.
Somebody on the text line said, guys, I legitimately don't understand why this team isn't better. Whenever you listen to national guys talk about some of the players on the team, it just doesn't make sense to me. What he said about consistency is a big part of why that is the case.
Yeah.
Like, this team just isn't consistent. Right. They're not inconsistent within games. They are inconsistent within games. They are inconsistent within stretches of time, a single road trip. Like, they can do what they did against Boston, where they look like one of the best teams in the NHL, and the very game before that, they can look like they were completely disinterested in playing hockey against the New York Rangers. Similar quality of opponents, really good teams, both on the road, and in one game they look terrible, the next game they look amazing.
Yeah.
Some of that is because of the opponent as well. New York looked interested, Boston didn't, but a lot of it is because of the Blues.
Yep.
So that's a big part of what's happened with the team this year. And another aspect to this is, like, he believes that they have a top line. That's a lightning rod of discussion here in St. Louis. Whether you believe it or not, those three guys I know are really good hockey players. He believes that Colton Parayko is a top pair defenseman. Believe that or not, I believe their top pairing this year has been pretty darn good. We didn't ask him about Benner because we didn't have time to do so, but if we had asked about him, he'd say he's a top goalie in the NHL.
Absolutely.
So you've got pieces, makings of what should be a good team. They're missing the connective tissue of what a good team is supposed to have. They don't have the middle six forwards. They've got a fourth line. They've got potentially a top line. They've got a top pair defensively. They've got a top goalie. They've got a good goalie tandem, honestly.
Yeah.
They're missing the bottom four defensive pairings, or honestly just that second pairing, really. And they're missing the middle six. If they could figure that out on the fly, they'd be fine. They'd be a legitimate contender, but they don't have that right now.
I think the one thing they're missing, too, is the wire to connect into what he was just talking about and this goes into when people get frustrated and we say, like, they're young players. They're not young. They've been in the league for 4 or 5 years. You heard him say sometimes, as Robert Thomas has the puck, you have to say, there's not a better play, just shoot the puck. Yep. And I think that falls into the category for Jordan Kyrou as well. And that's where we believe the top line hasn't gotten there yet. Is the wire going to click at some point where that learning process, and that's the veteran level of guys understanding the game, of that wire clicking and saying, no, there's not a better play, just push it in and go back and get it, or just shoot the puck on net, stop trying to make something else happen.
Yep. And the answer might be no. Like he was talking about Colton Parayko, where, hey, sometimes you wish that you could get a little bit more there. Sometimes you do wish there was more consistency, but a lot of the times it doesn't click for players, and this might just be who he is. And if it is, he's a good player. Not a great one. Maybe not a top.
It's a piece
five
you need
defenseman.
to win a Stanley Cup with.
A really good player.
Yeah.
A nice guy to be able to work with. But when you look at what's really gone wrong for the Blues since the start of the new year, here are some of their point totals from guys on this roster, especially in the middle six. Kasperi Kapanen in 21 games since the start of the new year has 1 goal, 7 points. Kevin Hayes, 3 goals, 6 points. You look at Zach Bolduc, he's only played in 10 games, but he just has the 1 goal, 0 assists in that time. Sammy Blais, 0 points in 15 games. Like, these are guys that are getting real minutes for you, and they're not contributing in meaningful ways. That's a big part of what's gone wrong for the Blues since the start of the year. You don't have a third line.
Yeah.
You know,
you hope that the depth of scoring is going to benefit you, but I also think you have to get that top line going. But that is the third national person that has told us, yeah, they got a top line.
Everybody seems to agree on what they have, and everybody seems to agree on what they're missing, and it's a matter of how do you get the stuff that you're missing. Yeah. In 15 minutes, we'll get into a game of Can You Beat the Blues? 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. If you would like to be a part of that, just text in, I can beat the Blues right now on the Air Comfort Service text line. We'll take texter number 101, 102, 103. You guys are going up against Jake Neighbors today. The winner will get a Jake Neighbors signed hockey puck and a pair of Blues tickets to see the Blues versus the Blackhawks coming up on April 10th. We'll get into that coming up in 15 minutes. Next, pitching is a legitimate question for the Cardinals. We all agree with that. Is this guy the answer? They seem to think the answer is no. We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
two dudes that are starring for the White Sox that were at the top of your farm system. And unless you won with Dylan Cease, trades like that don't make sense. Now, if you trade all that and you get him and the Cardinals win the World Series, nobody cares. It's like if the Bears pay whatever it costs in prospect capital, in draft capital, to go get a quarterback. Nobody cares that they traded all these picks for Mitch Trubisky if Mitch Trubisky is Patrick Mahomes. When he sucks, then everyone goes, what are you doing? So that's the risk.
That's our guy, Cap, up in Chicago, joining us a little while ago, talking about, hey, does it make sense, in his opinion, for the Cardinals to make a play for Dylan Cease? Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Dylan Cease, once again, back in the headlines, because earlier today, Ken Rosenthal wrote a piece about what he's hearing regarding trade talks for White Sox pitcher Dylan Cease. The whole story can be summed up with a big shrug emoji, essentially, but it does sound like there are new negotiations that are taking place between the White Sox and multiple teams across Major League Baseball. Ken Rosenthal specifically identifies the Padres, the Rangers, and the Yankees as three teams that have been negotiating lately with the White Sox to potentially acquire Dylan Cease. Alex, we've been down this road before. My guess is Dylan Cease is not going to get traded until the deadline. But I do find it interesting that there are teams that are looking at their rotation right now and saying to themselves, this ain't going to be good enough. We need to go find another option. The Yankees, the obvious reason why, is because Garrett Cole is hurt right now. So they're probably talking to Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery and then seeing what the price would be right now for Dylan Cease, finding out what their best option is. The Rangers are looking at their rotation right now and seeing a lot of what the Cardinals see. They've got Nate Eovaldi, John Gray, Andrew Heaney, Dane Dunning, and Cody Bradford. It's like a number 3 and a bunch of 5s, essentially, is what they have currently in their rotation.
That's our rotation.
It's not all that dissimilar on it. I would say if Sonny Gray's available, the Cardinals' rotation right now is better than what the Rangers' opening day rotation is. By the end of the season, they should get Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, and Tyler Mahle as a part of that.
I love the way the Rangers operate.
But they want something better for opening day so they can be contending when those three guys get back. Alex, should the Cardinals be operating the way that the Rangers are?
Why is that even a question? Yes. The Rangers are in on Dylan Cease. Why? Because they're like, we got a good team. Want to be better? Let's make the trade and go get a legit stud of a pitcher. Meanwhile, the Cardinals are sitting on their hands, twiddling their thumbs, going, well, if Lance Lynn pitches well and Kyle Gibson pitches like this and we've got Zach Thompson, yes, you should be operating like this because guess what? The Yankees, the Padres, the Rangers, those are three teams that operate as if we want to win the World Series, not just make the playoffs.
What if I told you that the asking price is Thomas Ajayci, Tink Hence, and TK Roby?
Fine. Because,
really?
Yeah, I would. Because guess what? I'm getting a better pitcher than all of those players. Will it sting when Thomas Ajayci goes and is hitting for the White Sox? Probably, but guess what? You got Donovan, you got Gorman. I don't care what Ajayci does. Frankly, this team already got us a ton of infielders trying to figure out what the hell we're going to do with them. And guess what? If Tink Hence and TK Roby go elsewhere and pitch well, it'll sting just like Sandy Alcantara would sting. But it only stings if Dylan Cease doesn't come here and pitches like an ace. If he comes here, just as Kaplan said, if he comes here and pitches like a number one pitcher and you've got a 1-2 punch of he and Sonny Gray, I don't care what Tink Hence or TK Roby does. It's just like when Ryan O'Reilly was traded here. I don't care what Tage Thompson becomes because I got a Stanley Cup.
Does it change if I replace JC with Donovan?
No.
You still would do it?
I would still do it. I think the only time it would start to change for me is if you mention Nolan Gorman's name or Jordan Walker's name. And only I know I've been the one. But I know I've been the one that I have to back up because I sound like a hypocrite. I've said to trade Nolan Gorman, but I've said to trade Nolan Gorman for a younger, controllable arm that has ace upside.
And you said to do it early in the offseason when there's still opportunities to be able to change the look, change the dynamic of your team. Now those don't exist anymore. Like whatever you do right now to change the look of your roster, it's final. Like that is... There is no changing things again. That's why making trades at this time of the year, I think, is so difficult for teams because, like, okay, I've put together my roster, and there's not opportunities out there to go change what I have. Like, you can't go get a 80% of Nolan Gorman doesn't exist on the market right now. You're just removing that left-handed power from your roster without being able to go acquire any. Like Jock Peterson, that guy ain't walking through the door now. He's already signed somewhere else. So I do think that changes things as well.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think if you're the Cardinals, I don't think a conversation would start if it included Brendan Donovan's name in it because of that.
I'm with you.
And the fact matter that I think he's probably their best leadoff hitter right now. I think he's got the best eye and he hits for average. Now, he doesn't have he's not great in terms of speed on the bases, but I know he's going to get on base, and I just don't think you change that. And the fact that he kind of showed himself as and I don't put too much stock into this, but I think the Cardinals clearly do. Donovan showed himself at winter warmup that he's clearly one of the leaders of this team. I don't think you trade that right before the season. So if Donovan's in the conversation, yeah, I don't think they're having that conversation. If this was earlier in the offseason, sure, I'd be more open to it, but not 2 weeks from opening day. I think if it included Hintz and Roby, it's an all-in move.
By the way, there is a little bit of an update from the Yankees. Garrett Cole expected to miss the first month or two of the season. He's headed to visit another doctor in L.A. to get another check on his elbow. The hope is that he can return at some point in May or June. My prediction right now, the Yankees will eventually make a trade for Dylan Cease. I bet you they trade for Cease and sign at least one of
Blake Snell
or Jordan Montgomery.
Yeah. I
think they'll probably sign Snell.
My only thing with
deal.
My only thing with the Brendan Donovan is, and I might be off on this because I do understand how impactful of a hitter he is. He does have that attitude that you want on this team. But it goes back to what we were talking about in terms of, worrying about a certain pitcher and how he looks and saying, guys, the only thing that matters is if you're getting carried by your offense. Or I'm sorry, we were talking about the outfield and the offense that Victor Scott could provide. It comes down to Gorman, Walker, Arenado, Goldschmidt, and Contreras.
And that's where we disagree. I think you can add in Donovan to that mix. Because on-base percentage from the left side, what he provides at the top of that order, I think you become everybody's kind of the same with the guys that you just mentioned, other than Gorman. Gorman brings left-handed pop. Everybody else is kind of a similar type of a hitter from what you just described. I think you do need diversity in your lineup. And one of those guys that brings that is Brendan Donovan, because he does take a lot of pitches. He does make the pitcher work, and he does get on base regularly. I can't necessarily say, and he presents somebody from the left side. The guys that you mentioned were all kind of similar in terms of their approach.
But aren't you hoping Lars Nootbaar is that?
Potentially, but I also don't know that at this point. I don't know that I can just assume that he's going to be healthy.
Again, I'm in the minority on this one, but I look at this as impactful of a player as that is. I hope that a Sajaci can be that. I've got Lars Nootbaar,
a right-handed hitter with an aggressive approach that doesn't get a ton of.
I understand, but I need a better pitcher. And I need somebody that I don't care. Brendan Donovan could get on base all he wants, but if you've got no pitcher to get to a playoff spot, none of it matters.
In 15 minutes, we're talking to Chris Kerber, but next, we're going to play a game of Can You Beat the Blues? It's our final installment this season of Can You Beat the Blues, and our final contestant is Jake Neighbors. He'll be going up against 3 lucky listeners. The winner will get a signed hockey puck by Jake Neighbors and a pair of Blues tickets to Blues versus Blackhawks on April 10th. Beat the Blues next here on 101 ESPN. Can you beat the Blues coming up here in just a moment? A bit of an update from Cardinals camp. This comes via Derek Gould. Sonny Gray has recovered well after throwing off of a mound on Monday. He's going to throw a side session on Thursday in Jupiter. And depending on how he feels after that, the Cardinals will make a call on game action, live BP, whatever the next outing is going to be. So it sounds like all is good on the Sonny Gray front. At least
Sonny!
Yeah, we just wasted our last segment talking about Cease. We don't
That's
need
right.
him.
I do. I mean,
Cease means you don't have to see Gibson or Lynn for a little bit
Oh,
more.
never mind.
we
need
did
Cease.
have a bit of a, like, the sky is falling moment last week. I think reasonably so. It does sound like everything has gone as well as possible with Sonny Gray. Now, it is the Cardinals, and we know how they operate with injuries in the past, so who knows where it goes from here, but it's at least encouraging to see that things are on the right track so far. All right, let's get to a game of Can You Beat the Blues? It's a very simple game, Alex. You basically have 15 seconds to name as many different things as you can within a category. If I were to say, for example, name as many colors as you can in 15 seconds.
Blue, red, magenta, duck
you got
yellow.
4.
Whoa.
Wow,
I got
duck
duck
yellow.
yellow out there.
You got 4 of them this time. Jake
different type of
Neighbors gets
yellow.
6 of them. He's at a -2.
Oh,
We'll go to
bleep
the
you.
next player, and we'll see what they can do compared to Jake Neighbors. At the end of the game, whoever has the best margin of victory will go home with a Jake Neighbors signed hockey puck and a pair of Blues tickets to Blues versus Blackhawks. All right, we have 3 contestants today. They are Justin, Tyler, and John. Justin is up first. He's going up against Jake Neighbors today. Justin, do you understand the rules of the game, my friend?
I sure do.
All right. Do you believe that you can beat Jake Neighbors today?
Oh, I hope so.
Just in case you don't,
Oh,
Justin.
my God. He's never heard that one before.
Hey,
No, that response means he has heard it multiple
Yeah,
times.
That's like saying, hey, BK, have it your way. Yeah, never heard it. That's a new
there we
one.
go.
I
Maybe
feel
both
for
your
I
mics
feel
should
for
be
you,
turned off.
Justin. I understand your pain. All right, Justin, your category today is comedy movies. Name as many different comedies as you can in 15 seconds. On your mark, get set, go.
21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street, Malibu's Most Wanted, The Longest Yard. Oh,
Uh-oh, Justin.
Man.
I'm going blank.
Justin.
Superboat.
Justin,
Superbad.
I would say you're like 30 to 35.
Yeah.
I figured based on the
when he said
the
Malibu's
movies-
Most Wanted, I'm like, cool, so we're friends. That's a great one to go to.
All right,
Oh, I
Justin.
Yeah, you did choke there, Justin. I mean, you got 21, 22 Jump Street.
Yeah.
You got
Longest
Malibu's Most
Yard.
Wanted. I'm like, here we go. And then you hit Longest Yard, and I'm like, I don't know where you're going with this. Anchorman 1, 2.
He's like, hey, Nelly's in the longest
Right.
yard.
See, what I would have done was Scary Movie 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This is get 6 of them right there.
man.
Just go through Will Ferrell's category. or catalog.
just yeah.
All right. We'll
okay,
see if Jake
Justin.
Neighbors knows his comedies. He needs to beat 4.
Step Brothers, Grown Ups 1, Grown Ups 2, Billy Madison. What else is Adam Sandler in? I'm drawing a blank. Oh, Happy Gilmore.
Oh, he squeaked out Happy Gilmore, the buzzer
5.
beater. See, you pick a comedian and you just go straight through it.
That's the best way to go about it. All right. Unfortunately, that's a -1 for Justin.
All right, Justin.
Because Jake Neighbors was able to get to 5. Justin is, however, still the leader in the clubhouse. We're going to Tyler next. Tyler, you're going up against Jake Neighbors today. Do you believe you can beat him? And do you understand the rules of the game?
I hope I can beat him, and I do understand.
No, Tyler, I need more confidence. Can you beat Jake Neighbors, Tyler?
Yes, I can beat Jake Neighbors.
It's about a 6 on the scale, but I liked it.
I respect it. All right, Tyler, your category today is rappers, as in musicians. Can you name as many rappers as you can in 15 seconds? On your mark, get set, go.
Lil Eminem, Jay-Z, Drake, Nicki Minaj.
Say T-Pain!
T-Pain.
There it is! Justin, are you somewhere between 30 and 35 years old?
33 today.
There we go.
Lil Wayne, happy birthday!
Oh, happy birthday.
Hey, tell your dad and your grandpa to please listen to the show. We need to get our numbers up with people in that like 50, 55
And
range.
if you have a kid, tell him to listen also.
For sure.
I needed comedy. I know every Adam Sandler movie.
See, yeah, it's all the luck of the draw. All right, Tyler, you got 5. We'll see if Jake Neighbors knows his rappers.
Lil Baby, Lil Durk, 21 Savage, J. Cole, Biggie Smalls, Tupac. Who else? Oh, this is so brutal.
Well, I mean,
Oh, we got to a 6. Unfortunately, that means it's also a -1. So Tyler and Justin right now, stay on the line. You are both tied as the leaders in the clubhouse. Jake Neighbors is my favorite player that's played this so far. He's great at it.
Why is that?
He's just fun.
He hasn't been very great at it.
I got 5, got 6. That's not bad.
I mean,
could do better, could do worse. He didn't have pizza toppings as his.
Yeah, he had rappers and comedies, which, by the way, we're doing this at like 7 a.m., so these guys just woke up.
I'll never forget Braden Shen looking like a deer in headlights.
Braden Shen hated us for this game.
He's always the first one that walks through the door. It's like exactly 7 a.m. He's like, what are we doing, guys?
I'm sorry, Braden.
Thomas did that 2 years ago, and he looked at us. He's like, really? Really?
All right, next one up.
Hey,
we have John on the line. Now, John.
Yes, sir.
We got to chat.
John, are you a big fan of the show?
I am. I caught this on lunch right now, so I'm happy to be here.
Okay, John, because I scrolled back on our text line.
Hey, man, watch your tone through text, all right? That's all I got to say.
You called
watch
tone. You called us dorks in the past, John.
I have, and I wasn't lying about it.
Oh, you son of a...
You know what? I like John.
+5 on that one, John.
All right,
Thank you.
John, you're actually going up against Robert Thomas today. It's a little bit of an audible here.
Jake Neighbors was tired after 2.
Yeah, he said, I got 2 in me, boys. That's all I got. So you're going up against Robert Thomas, but if you win, you will still get a signed puck by Jake Neighbors. John, your category today is celebrities. Name as many celebrities as you can in 15 seconds. On your mark, get set, go.
Adam Sandler, Diana Ross, Nelly, Will Ferrell, Bill Clinton, Jeff Bezos.
John?
Barnum and Bailey.
John, are you driving on the side of the road or something and looking at billboards? Where did you get Barnum and Bailey from?
First thing came to my mind.
Is that worth 2, by the way?
Yeah, it's 2 people.
Yes, it is.
7. Oh, yeah, 8.
If you were counting that as 2, it's 8.
You got Bill Clinton.
You got Bill Clinton, Diana Ross, and Barnum and Bailey.
Man, I like what John said.
I was thinking.
John, you are outstanding. But you didn't say BK and Ferrario, so actually it comes to a 0.
Count. I wouldn't have counted that. All right, let's see if Robert Thomas knows his celebrities.
Tom Hanks, Ryan Reynolds, John Hamm, Rob McElhaney, Justin Bieber.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
John, I bet you don't think we're dorks now, do you?
No, he still
No,
does.
sir, not at all.
All right, that's a +3 for John. John, well done, my friend. You can indeed beat the Blues. You're going home with a Jake Neighbors signed hockey puck, and you're going to a Blues game. You're going to see the Blues take on the Blackhawks on April 10th. Pair of Blues tickets are yours. Congratulations, John.
Can't wait. Thank you, man.
You got it. That's John. Congratulations to him for getting the Jake Neighbors signed hockey puck and a pair of Blues tickets to see the Blackhawks coming up on April 10th.
See what people, and by the way, thank you to Comfort Experts for being a part of our Beat the Blues segment all year long.
Alex, I have some news to pass along.
I saw the news, but I was just going to say to our listeners right now, you think you're anonymous when you send us your texts. You don't.
Yeah, now we know who John is.
We always know.
John, that dork.
And honestly, he did just call us dorks. I scrolled back, and that was the meanest thing he said, so we'll give it to him. Give him the news, BK.
And again, he's right.
Yeah, there's
so the Blues have announced a 2-year contract extension.
For who? Kasperi Kapanen.
For a player that was just in the AHL a week ago. Matt Kessel is sticking around. 2 years, one-way contract, $800,000 per season. I feel like he's selling himself a little short there, but we'll talk about this with Chris Kerber, the voice of the Blues, next here on 101 ESPN.
Hey, you know why it's important to get your air conditioning unit, and even more importantly, or just as importantly, your HVAC system inspected? And this is why you do regular maintenance. And I'm going to tell you exactly what happened to us. At one point in time, we were just getting it cleaned out or just getting it inspected. It was an older unit, didn't need anything. The guy took the camera, said, "You got to come see this." And he noticed a crack in it. Well, had that crack gone all the way through, eventually we have a CO2 issue in the house, and that could obviously be a horrific situation if it happens in the middle of the night. That's what happened to us. That's why it's important to get your HVAC unit and your air conditioning units inspected and ready to go for the winter or for the summer, whatever it may be. When you want your unit serviced, when you want your unit looked at, when you need your unit checked out and ready to go for the season, you call Classic Air Care. They've been making people comfortable since 1926, and how about this review? These guys are amazing. Nick has taken care of my home 3 times. Always get amazing service. So from repairs to replacements for all your HVAC needs, make sure you do it for your own safety and do it for your own comfort. It's ClassicAirCare.com.
Terry Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Blues back in action tonight as they take on the LA Kings. Well, pregame coverage starting at 5:30 with Alex Ferrario and Joey Vitale. Then Joey will join Chris Kerber for Puck Drop at 6:30. And the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber, joins us next year on BK and Ferrario. And the Cardinals currently taking on the Minnesota Twins in spring training action as they are tied at 0 apiece in the bottom of the third. Zach Thompson getting the start for St. Louis. This Sports Update is driven by Johnny Londoff. Find your road shop 24/7 at londoff.com, on Autoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
All right, let's go out to the 101 ESPN hotline. There is some Blues news. They have signed Matt Kessel to a 2-year contract extension worth $800,000 in each of the next 2 seasons. So $1.6 million total. It's a one-way contract. So he's going to be making $800,000 each of the next 2 seasons. Congratulations are in order for Matt Kessel, a guy that, let's be honest, for most Blues fans was an afterthought coming into the season, has made himself into a legitimate NHLer based on his performance for the Blues this year. And with that as the backdrop, we go out to talk to Chris Kerber, the voice of the Blues, right now here on BK and Ferrario. Kerbs, you just heard the news. I'm sure you knew about it beforehand as well. What was your reaction to the news that Matt Kessel has been locked up for a 2-year contract extension with the Blues?
Well, I think it's fantastic. I just said this to Tanner when he called me. One of the great things in sports is when you see a young player take advantage of an opportunity, and he did just that. And that opportunity was clearly Scott Perunovich's. That opportunity was clearly Tyler Tucker's coming out of camp. Those guys have been on the roster all year. They were one-way players, so they would have had to clear waivers to go down to the minors. And obviously the team did not want to take that chance and put them on waivers. And yet, despite that, just because better play was needed, not really because of an injury situation, he got a chance to come up, and he just took advantage of it. You know what he did, BK? He last year he got a taste of what it was like to be here, and when he went back down, he used that as motivation. He used that as an idea of how to work and how to get there again, and he followed up, and he's been fantastic. So, being an RFA, it wasn't a matter of whether or not the Blues are going to sign him, right? It is a deal that they needed to get done, and they could have done something easily in the offseason. But I think he's clearly proven he's an NHL defenseman, and there are still some growing pains to come with him, without a shred of doubt, as it is for any young D-man in the National Hockey League. But literally, much like Parayko did and Joel Edmondson did, he jumped over two guys to earn this spot. I love a story like this.
It's awesome. And I was curious, Kerbs, because the profile of player that Matt Kessel is, he's just a stay-at-home defenseman, right? There's nothing particularly interesting about him, and I don't say that to demean him. That at times can be a really good thing for a defenseman. But when you look at the way that the game is played at the AHL level versus the NHL level, for guys like him, do you think that sometimes it actually fits better in the NHL than it would in the AHL, where sometimes things can be a little chaotic?
Brandon, not just him, forwards too. I talked to Zach Bolduc about this because of this. You have players that are still learning the game at the pro level. You have young guys, say like a Zach Bolduc, coming in at the age of 20 or 21, and you're playing against 27, 28, sometimes 30-year-olds, depending on how many veterans they have down there. And the game can get very scrambly. It's not as quick. More pucks can get deflected. You have to react more. And again, the NHL is very difficult, but when you even I asked Zach Bolduc about this about 2 days ago, and he said it's faster up here, but it's almost easier because you know where guys are going to be. Guys are where they're supposed to be. They can catch the pass on the first time, and in that sense, the play is actually cleaner. And for a defenseman in front of the net like a Matt Kessel, that's absolutely huge. Same thing, by the way, for goaltending. Now, you can get numbers down in the American Hockey League as a goalie. You got a chance of being a pretty good NHL goalie. So, you come up here and all of a sudden, you're playing with Torrey Krug. You're playing with a guy that knows where he's going to go. You're playing with a guy that can pass the puck. And all you've got to do is get that puck out of the zone. And what he told us in Boston that he's been working on the most, and really what was being just hounded and pounded into his head when he was in Springfield, was that first play. If you see it, take it, get the puck out of the zone, and make it a clean play. As a defenseman, he said you could tend to hesitate a little bit, and maybe that extra second takes that first option away from you, and that's when you get in trouble. So he said if you've got that first option, take it and clear it.
Kerbs, one more on just this signing, and you go back to the Oscar Sundqvist signing as well. Does it feel like Doug Armstrong is just checking off the to-do list of off-season moves so that he can focus more on bigger moves when it gets to that point?
Yeah. But I would say, Alex, these are the no-brainers, I guess. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Look,
it's your to-do list, right, Kerbs? Throughout the course of a day, you've got a bunch of things that you got to do. Get the stuff that, okay, let me get this off of my desk so I can focus my attention on the harder tasks.
Well, yeah, and once things become, more abundantly clear, for example, okay, and I'll use this as an example. You had to find out come the trade deadline if Oscar wanted to be here and you said you wanted to re-sign him, could you get that deal done? So it was important to get that knowledge before the trade deadline because there were teams that wanted Oscar Sundqvist, right? In this case, a restricted free agent, you've got a little more control over it. But if you know where you're able to get him done and you're able to get him done sooner, you easily have more planning time. You know what his salary is going to be. You know where this guy might fit in. And then other potential moves you make, and for example, restricted free agents could hold out. I would have been shocked if Kessel had done that. But restricted free agents, we've seen it, could hold out. So, yeah, getting things done is just kind of getting your picture a little bit more clear. Nathan Walker, the same thing. Okay, you've got your 10th, your 11th, or your 12th forward there in Nathan Walker now for a 2-year deal. You've got Sundqvist. And the way Torchenko's playing, you've got a good fourth line for next year. Now, if something comes up where you can upgrade it, you're going to look at it. But you check that one off the list, and you start to work at the top 9 there, and you go from there. So, yeah, this is part of, I guess, GM maintenance, but also good to just get it done.
Chris Kerber is the voice of the Blues. He's joining us here on 101 ESPN. Kerbs, we mentioned earlier today, listen, I don't know what the season's going to hold the rest of the way. I'm a little skeptical on the playoff hopes, but they are still there. Like, if you're a believer, that chance still exists. And if it's going to happen, man, tonight's game is huge, man. This is a potential 4-point swing in that wild card race. When you look at a game like this, what are some of the implications that come to mind for you?
Exactly what you just said. I mean, that's it. You've got a chance to keep a team you could be chasing down from getting points. You've got a chance to get them. You've got the LA Kings, who have 77 points. The Vegas Golden Knights had 77 points. Boy, it stunk watching Vegas get a game-time goal with 13 seconds to go in the game and then win it in overtime. But that's the way it goes. And you're chasing them. You're 8 points behind them. You can move to within 6 points if you get this victory and if you get it in regulation. You know, and that's just the way you have to look at it, and then you move on to the next one. Nashville has had the easiest schedule of them all in terms of competition out of the playoffs, and they've been able to take advantage of it and go. The LA Kings have played well since they changed their head coach coming out of the break, and with a record of 10-5-1. And it is an uphill battle as Minnesota's found some pride, too. I'll tell you what, that Nashville I don't know if they play again. I haven't looked at their schedule, but if Nashville and Minnesota play again, to me, that's must-watch TV. The heart that those guys put into that game was just awesome. So they're playing well, and you've got to match it. So, man, I agree with you. Look, I don't know, Brandon, at this point in time, if we're talking about things coming down to proving yourself or showing you can do something or what, this is just coming down to win. And right now, you're trying to figure out whether or not either, A, you can stay in the race, or B, you drop back 3 or 4 points. You end up with a top 10 pick and a potential lottery pick.
Kerbs, we talked about this yesterday, and speaking to that lottery pick, obviously you always want playoff experience for your players, but if for some reason you don't fall into that top 10 potential draft pick for the Blues, does that stunt their opportunity to exit out of this retool?
No, I don't think so. I don't know who. I did a podcast yesterday with a couple guys, and this question came up, and I don't really think it does. To be honest with you, the way the St. Louis Blues have been able to find players in that 18 to 25 range. I mean, Jake Neighbors 26, right? I think the Blues, like the Dallas Stars, are one of the better drafting teams at really understanding how to identify talent late in the first round and into the second and third rounds. So I've got a lot of confidence in the Blues draft picks if that's the case. So does making the playoffs stunt it? Absolutely not. And I'm going to go back to one thing. People may be tired of hearing this. I know, Alex, you probably are. But they got the goalie. I mean, they've got the one thing that you need that helps get you through it, and it's goaltending. They've got that. They've got some good players. I mean, look, guys, this is a team where you don't lay an egg against a couple of stinkers in this league. At the time when LA wasn't playing well, or one of those, you beat San Jose, you beat Columbus. Even those two games has you just knocking on the door, and you're looking at the season differently. So I think my best suggestion, I guess, to everybody would be keep as much of a macro view on this season as anything. And having said that, you guys know my feelings on this. You get a top 10 pick. I mean, hey, we saw the Chicago Blackhawks win the lottery with a 12th overall pick, right? Mm-hmm. If you get a top 10 pick for the Blues, who again have only had 6 of them and chosen 5 times since 1988, right? It's only going to help you. It's only going to help you. So I don't look at either scenario. I see positives in honestly both scenarios, and if I'm a Blues fan, I'm prepping myself for both.
Vegas. You want to go to the Sphere?
You know what? The one thing the NHL does at those events is put on a hell of a good show. So for your guys' sake, I tell you what, for the 2 of you, not for the 3 of you, because you got to take Tanner with you.
Oh, absolutely. BK's not invited.
Okay, well, that's that. You guys have to do that. I'll send you all 3 of you. But
thanks,
for the sake of all 3 of you, I hope you guys are going to Las Vegas to see the Blues draft first overall in the Sphere.
Say it with us, Kerbs. Vegas. No, Curbs ain't jumping on that
All right,
one.
Curbs, we'll get you out of here on this. So we were talking about it earlier today with the Kings coming into town to take on the Blues in a big game. It shouldn't be a big game for them. This was not their hope. Their belief was this was the year where it all comes together. They're going to be legitimately in contention for a Stanley Cup. Hasn't worked out that way. Started out 27-4, have been 13-7 ever since. Curbs, we have heard Doug Armstrong mention the Kings as, hey, that's the way that I want to retool. I don't want to go through a 5 to 7 year rebuild. They did it in 3. What's the lesson here? What is the lesson from the Kings on what went wrong that led to them firing their coach midseason and not taking that next step when they thought they were done with their retool?
Yeah, I wish I had a better answer for you on this one. I guess one of the things that I wonder, and I haven't seen some of their people to talk to them yet. I wonder if in the end that 1-3-1 system that they put into play to kind of make themselves more competitive than maybe the talent on the roster led them to be over the last couple of years and get themselves back into the playoffs. I wonder if that grind and the dullness of that just finally, had its run. Now, I haven't watched a whole lot of them to see if they varied from that too much under Hill or their new coach, but Todd McClellan's a hell of a coach, an intriguing one too, fellas. And I don't know. I don't know if it just worked then, but I mean, when you saw Drew Doughty saying we got too many guys in this room that care about whether or not they're scoring goals and playing winning hockey, I mean that tells you something. So to give you an idea, though, the Kings thought that, hey, I don't know if they considered themselves heavy Stanley Cup contenders, but they are definitely in the mix of just on the outliers moving into that realm. And when it started to go south and it looked like the playoffs or could be a jeopardy, Rob Blake went ahead and made a very difficult move, and it's been a good one for him because it's got that thing turned around. So the other team, and you guys have heard me say this, look at the LA Kings. The other team I suggest, I recommend people take a look at is the Boston Bruins. And when they missed the playoffs for 2 years in 14 and 15, I think it was. And look what they've done with that. It was that second draft that they got the 3 picks and found a McAvoy and a Frederick. And then look at what they had beforehand. Look at what they did. And those are 2 good examples. So, and I guess the last thing real quick on that one, I would say to you is when you do start to rely on youth, right? And you've got Byfield playing on your top line with Alex Turcotte, right? You've got some other guys that haven't been part of winning stretches of hockey and some young players. It takes a while to learn how to win in the National Hockey League, and I think they just went through one heck of a bit of adversity with their playoff lives on the line.
Yeah, don't trade for Pierre-Luc Dubois. That's another lesson to be learned.
Don't trade for that.
No thanks. I like the fact that he's locked in there in L.A., and we don't have to worry about it.
Amen to that.
Hey, Curbs, appreciate the time, man. Looking forward to hearing you guys on the call tonight. A meaningful game here in St. Louis. Blues versus the Kings. Alex will have pregame at 5:30. Curbs and Joe coming up at 6:30 right here on your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN. Always appreciate the time. Thanks for being flexible today. We'll talk with you again soon, my friend.
You got it, fellas. Thanks. Talk to you a little later.
You got it. That's Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, joining us as he does each and every Wednesday here on BK and Ferrario.
One more thing, and I love that Bruins comp, and I'm ashamed that I've never thought of it, but that's why Curbs is the best. But so 2014, they select 25th overall, and they select David Pastrnak. That was the steal that teams have to have. Now, not to
There's
say
your
that,
Jake Neighbors.
Or
1 for 1.
There's your Jimmy Snuggerud.
40-goal scorer, 40-goal scorer.
Jimmy Snuggerud too, buddy. Whichever one you want to go
Guess it
with.
depends.
It just depends on who you ask.
I like
Hockey
my
guy
guys
or
that have
baseball
already been
guy?
proven.
Hockey guy, baseball guy. Who you want to go with here? Then they had an awful draft where they selected 13th, 14th, and 15th overall. 3 straight picks, and one of them made the NHL, and it was Jake DeBrusk. But they also drafted a defenseman that's playing for them now in Brandon Carlo. The next draft, as Curbs mentioned, they got Charlie McAvoy and Trent Frederick. And then
What number did they select, sir?
14th overall and Charlie McAvoy.
Because that could be where the Blues are at right now.
It could be, but I wonder if this is the year that they could do what Boston did with the McAvoy. Maybe you got your Snuggerud, maybe you got your DeBrusk. Can you get your McAvoy? Because we talk so much about defense, and I've talked about Miro Heiskanen with the Dallas Stars. If you can get that one guy that transcends the team in terms of the other side of the ice, now you could start talking about being more of a Boston Bruins team. But this draft is so intriguing because if you're not selecting top 10, I'm not sure you're getting that type of player.
Who's your Marchand?
On this team now?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that's
Marchand
your Jake.
was 27 years old.
I would say that's your Jake Neighbors.
I don't think you have a Marchand.
I would say you're Jake.
Because your Bergeron, the 1-for-1 is
Thomas.
Robert Thomas.
I would say your Marchand.
Krejci's probably your version of Booch.
Maybe.
Close. I mean, that's the closest thing that you've got there.
Yeah.
I don't think you have your Marchand right now.
I think Neighbors could be your Marchand. I mean, if you're thinking he's a 40
he's
goal,
your DeBrusque /
maybe. But if you thought he was a 40 goal scorer,
I was kidding.
Well, what the hell, man? I think he's a 30 goal scorer. I think he could be your Marchand. The problem is you have to hit one of those goal scorers, which you hope Snuggerud or Dvorsky could be, and you got to get your defenseman. And that's what this year's draft could present for the Blues, and this is how you exit out of it faster.
I like it. It is definitely an interesting comparison.
Also, how about just Chris Kerber there in the middle of that? You know, Todd McClellan, who's an intriguing name, by the way, guys. Wink, wink.
All I heard is we're ready to go to Vegas.
Vegas, 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 Vegas. No.
Sphere. Tanner will tell you about getting caught with his pants down next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Time to dive into the jug drawer. T-Bone, what happened yesterday, bud?
So it's actually this morning, but, this morning I wake up and I get an email this week that says at my apartment, I've got a deck, that they're coming out.
A what?
A deck.
A what?
A deck. That they're coming out.
A DAC? Like a
and
DAC
they're going
Prescott?
to be painting my deck, okay? Now I'm concerned about what I'm saying.
Just your upper level patio.
Anyways, so I knew they were coming out at some point this
paint
week.
your deck.
Yes. So I wake up this morning and I hear all this ruckus and I'm thinking, okay, that's probably them. So I get in the shower.
You were such an old person saying I heard this ruckus.
Well, I was really upset today, but anyways,
Jesus, Grandpa.
I get it. I go. I take my shower. I get out, and I hear this scraping sound. I'm like, what the heck are they doing out
Be
there?
careful with that. That was a sign that my refrigerator went out 2 weeks ago.
Well, it wasn't from the fridge, it was from outside.
They were scraping your deck?
So they were scraping off, I guess they're scraping off the old paint on it and they're repainting it. Well, so I heard that scraping sound and totally had a blank moment. So, I haven't had my cup of coffee yet. So I've got just a towel around me. I walked out to the family room, and I'm not expecting what I saw, but so I just turned the blinds and opened it up, and there's a guy on my deck that is actually scraping away the paint, and there I am just standing there in my towel, and he just stops because he saw the thing turn out of the corners. I stops and looks at me. We made eye contact, and he goes, "Hola." I was just like, "Oh, good morning," and then I closed the blinds and just went about my business.
Did he ask if your parents were home?
No, he did not. No.
Did you think
But it's
about...
very awkward because I was not expecting him to be actually there.
But you heard a noise and you said, you know what's a smart idea? Going to check on it in my towel.
Hey, at least you have the towel.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Could have been no towel.
Could have been much worse.
When he said, hola, you could have just been like, what up, man?
At least I didn't open the door and go, "Hey, good work, man." High-fived him.
Does anybody else ever have that fear? Or is it just me when you're showering and you hear a noise and you're like, man, if somebody breaks into my house right now and I'm nude, I'm going to have to fight somebody just out.
Oh, dude, I know. If somebody breaks in my house, I'm a goner. It's a bummer.
You're going to fight to stay alive?
No, man.
I mean, the good news is the guy's not going to get any...
Put me out of my misery.
I mean, well, put him out of your misery, am I right? Seeing you in the shower?
Yeah. I was not expecting... I was more upset today because then I couldn't... I like to open up the... patio.
In your towel?
I'll get that cool breeze, sip on my coffee, read the paper in the morning. I couldn't do it because I got this guy out there.
On your deck.
Yeah. And then, by the way, when I walked out, this morning to go to work, they were speaking Spanish. They're probably talking about me.
Oh, absolutely.
When I walked out.
Yeah, they were like, why is this 15-year-old child coming to the door in a towel?
Yeah, it wasn't a great look.
And who opens the blinds? Wouldn't you just, peek?
Why did you use there,
You heard the noise.
I know, but I didn't think he was right there.
Well, I can promise you one thing. He won't be making noise anymore if he knows you're going to come to the door with a towel on.
They may never come and paint my deck again.
Somebody said, T-Bone, you're 22 years old. Why are you reading the paper?
Oh, it's kind of my job to read what's going on in Jupiter right now. Keep up with the policies and the Missouri area.
It's not even worth getting.
He said ruckus. You're really questioning the newspaper?
All right, a couple of things to pass along here before we get to our continued countdown of the 20 most important Cardinals list. Zach Thompson, amazing today. 4 innings, did not allow a hit, did not allow a run, obviously. 1 walk, 5 strikeouts against the Minnesota Twins. Now, the Twins had most of their everyday lineup in there as well, so this wasn't one of those things where he's going up against the also-rans of another team. Twins do not have a great lineup, but most of their regulars were in there today. Good day by him. Victor Scott so far is 1 for 2 with a hard-hit ball. Dylan Carlson 0 for 2 with a strikeout. Did have 1 hard-hit ball,
Where'd that hard hit ball go?
What's Burleson, by the way?
Was bottled up. Alec Burleson 0 for 2, has 1 hard hit ball as well. Victor Scott now has a 920 OPS and a 380 batting average so far in the spring. For context, Dylan Carlson batting 190 with an OPS of 450 this spring.
He deserves more opportunities.
One thing that I would say is worth monitoring, the results were great for Zach Thompson. It is a bit strange. His fastball velo was averaging about 90 miles per hour. His hardest thrown ball on the day was 92. Ended up throwing 50 pitches. Worth monitoring. I'm not saying
to hold back a little bit there.
I don't know.
So you could go longer?
I will say this too. I just thought of this because I remember reading this today in the paper. Sometimes those, reading the paper matters. Sometimes those whatever it is, the technology down there in those camps, the radar guns, they aren't great. So
They're not great for
sometimes the
classification.
Cardinals will.
They're typically good for velo. You can typically get the right velo readings, but sometimes it'll classify
Boston
the
yesterday was
pitch
having
incorrectly.
trouble with Libertor. So that's why I bring that up. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's not an issue, but maybe it's just not fully reading it. It'll be interesting to see what the Cardinals' internal numbers say about what his fastball was.
Hopefully when those come in, it's a little better, because that is, I wouldn't say concerning, but definitely something worth monitoring. 90 miles per hour is a weird fastball velo reading for him. All right. The one other piece of news, Mike Williams has been officially released by the Chargers. They have to make moves today by the 3 o'clock deadline. They were like $20 million.
So they kept Bosa?
So far, yes. They have officially released Mike Williams, which will be a $20 million cap release for them.
Mm-hmm.
This should be a Chief.
I was just going to say, so he's a Chief, right?
Yeah.
Big, powerful. If he plays, which you really only need him down the stretch if you're the Chiefs. Yeah.
Yeah, if not there, other teams that could make some sense for him. I was literally about to say that. Yes, Buffalo makes a lot of sense.
Baltimore.
Yep.
Those would be the other two teams I would say you should go to. I would even throw Dallas in there. If you're Dallas,
gets no money. None.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's
true.
Way to go, Dak.
With. Detroit would be a really interesting spot for him as well.
Detroit.
Houston,
but I mean, they already got so many weapons, but what's one more for CJ Stroud?
Exactly. Yeah, and then the Cardinals, if they're going to miss out on Hollywood Brown, you probably want to bring in some kind of a receiver to replace him.
I'm just so weirded out by the people that are trying to make like Arizona good. It just feels like the Arizona Cardinals are bad, and like, why are we spending more assets to make them good?
That's right. You got to find out about Kyler. That's why.
I feel like we already know.
It's fair. If I'm Mike Williams, I'm taking a 1-year deal this year, playing with a really good quarterback.
I want a championship.
The next season. If I'm him, I'm incentive laden, whatever you got to do. I'm going to take a deal with the Chiefs. Hopefully I get myself healthy, and then next year I'll reset the market the way that Juju Smith-Schuster did with him. That should be the formula for Mike Williams.
Just don't go to a bad team. That's like the one. Like, go to a team that has a chance to win a Super Bowl and make it interesting.
Mike Williams, when he's healthy, is really good, man. He's just never healthy. All right, coming up next, we continue our countdown of the 20 most important Cardinals for 2024 with a man who could end up maybe being an extension candidate for the Cardinals. I'll tell you about it next here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friend and insurance agent, Tracy Bibb. When it comes to making sure you have the right insurance company, you want to make sure you use the right agent. And that is why I highly suggest Tracy Bibb. Her and her team provide the best customer service when it comes to your insurance coverage. And look, that's the most important thing. When we're talking about important pieces of your livelihood, your house, your car, when something happens, and they preach, it's not a matter of if, it's when something happens, you want that agent to be available, and that's what Tracy is. She's always available for you. She's always keeping you updated on prices, on rates, making sure she's saving you money. And then when it goes down, she's there to help you with the fixtures. So give her a call today. Ask Tracy for a free non-committal quote. All you got to do is mention my name, and she'll walk you through the whole process. She'll even cancel your insurance agency for you and switch you over to the Bibb agency. Tracy Bibb. 314-328-4260. That's 314-328-4260. It's no fib. You're always in great hands with the Bibb.
A hell of an open by T-Bone for a hell of a pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals. Ryan Helsley is next up on our list of the 20 most important Cardinals for 2024. He comes in at number 12 overall. Alex, we were all kind of a little different on Ryan Helsley. He's this high on the list because of me. I am the
way to
problem
go.
Of course,
when it comes to
of course
Ryan
he is.
Helsley. I had him at number 7 on my list of the 20 most
Nobody
important
added guys
Cardinals.
to the bullpen, right?
Yeah, you know they're not even going to use them.
Alex had him at 13. T-Bone had him at 12. We were all a little different. You guys had him similar. I will explain why I was so high on Ryan Helsley in terms of where I have him. If he's not your closer, I don't know who is. I don't think this team has another legitimate bona fide closer on the roster. I think they've got a lot of really interesting, nice relievers, and all of them fit into place because of Ryan Helsley at the back end of your bullpen. I think we underestimate how good Ryan Helsley was last year. He was hurt. He had some of those same injury issues that popped up previously, but Helsley, when he was available last year, was not the problem. The guys that were giving up games were in the 6th, 7th, and 8th inning. Most of the time when it got to Helsley last year, he locked it down at the back end of your pen. He was awesome once again for you last season. Over the last couple of years, one of the best relievers in all of Major League Baseball. The velo's there. The strikeouts are there. Everything you're looking for from a closer, Ryan Helsley has it in spades. To me, the best case scenario for him this year, be the same guy that he's been the last couple of years, but be available. If you're available for the Cardinals this season, I think everything else kind of filters through, and we're going to be pretty pleased with the way that this bullpen sets up. The biggest question with Helsley over the last couple of seasons is, has, and always will be, is he healthy? If he is, you feel good about him.
I don't even know if the question is he healthy? Is he willing to pitch all the times that you need him to? Because that was part of the issue last year, too, is like, well, is he going to be willing to go out there for you? And that's part of the reason why I had him so low. I'm a little on the other side of this one. I know that we've seen him as a bona fide shutdown closer, but I haven't seen it recently, and I don't know if he's that guy. I think when he's on and he's available and he's willing, he's that guy for you. But I also think that they could use Giovanni Gallegos in certain spots. I think a couple of these guys that they brought in might be used in that area. It feels like a closer by committee going into the season until Ryan Helsley takes it by the horns and runs with it. Now, if he does, then he is going to be very important because I don't know if this is speculating or going out on a limb here. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of tight ball games between the Cardinals and their opponents because of their starting pitchers and because of this offense. So I had him low because I just don't know what Ryan Helsley we're getting this season.
See, I think when Helsley is healthy, he is has the best stuff in Major League Baseball, some of the best stuff in Major League Baseball. And I don't think it's the closer by committee. He is the closer. There is no doubt in my mind Ryan Helsley's the closer. But the reason I didn't have him as high up on the list this year as I think I have in years past is that the bullpen is so much deeper now. You know, if he does have some struggles, you've got Gio, you've got JoJo, you've got Middleton, you've got who did I just forget that was in that list that they brought in? Kittredge. Like, they've got 5 legitimate guys that got stuff. And depending on what, maybe Fernandez or O'Brien end up having stuff that can play as well. So it's not like in years past where going into the season it was Ryan Helsley, Gio, and then there was a major drop-off. Like last year there was Hicks, but remember, it took a month and a half for Hicks to figure out how to pitch. So that's why I had him a little bit lower. It wasn't because I don't find him to be an important part. I think he is important because I think he's got the best stuff of any Cardinal and some of the best stuff among all relievers in baseball. And you're right. Best case scenario is it looks a lot like he did last year in September when he was healthy, and it looks like 2022. But I just don't find him as important because I think the bullpen's a lot deeper this year.
I think last year they were trying to figure out what's the best way to use Ryan Helsley. They took some of the reins off of him.
Not every third day.
Fair. From April to May, in that range of time, he had 9 different appearances in which he went more than an inning. So he would come in for the back half of the 8th inning, and then he would finish out the 9th. He would be that like fire engine or fire extinguisher, and then he would come in for the 9th for the save, right? And then they decided not to do that anymore because he got hurt at the end of May. So when he comes back and you get him in the month of September, it was almost exclusively 1-inning outings. But the change was we're willing to go back-to-backs with him now. 3 times in the month of September, he would go with a back-to-back. He would go one day and then he'd be available again the next. I think I prefer that version of Ryan Helsley. And with this version of the Cardinals bullpen, I think that's more of what they need. Can you go back-to-back? Great. I don't need you to go more than an inning. Put him on the same plan that we saw with the Brewers, where they had Josh Hader, 1 inning every appearance. He never goes more than an inning. I'm fine with that with Helsley. It's about what do you have around him. Last year, they needed him to stretch. Give us as many outs in this game as we can because we can't blow it. If we've got a one-score lead late in a game, we have to finish this thing out, and Helsley is clearly our only and best option. I don't feel that way this year. if you're going into the 8th inning, you've got options there. Depending on what the matchup is, to your point, T-Bone, JoJo, Kittredge, Middleton, O'Brien. Like, there's a bunch of different players you could go to there. So I think they're in a much better spot to get the best version of Ryan Helsley, and I think that version is 1-inning spurts as we go into this season. Alex, there was a piece the other day, though, from Derek Gould about the possibility of extending Ryan Helsley and him being a part of the Cardinals, not just for this year, for next. I think he's got 1 year left of arbitration, if I'm not mistaken, but giving him a contract extension as early as this spring. Is that something that you would be interested in exploring?
No. 28 years old, going to be 29. I'm not talking contract extension because I don't know if this is going to break quick for you. And if it does, man, you just don't want to commit to that. I mean, T-Bone talks about it all the time. You can rotate through bullpen guys and find different guys to put into different spots. And I don't know what the contract terms would look like. I don't know how many years he would want, but I can't commit multiple years to a 29-year-old closer who I really have only seen one season where he's looked like, in half of a season in all reality, where he's looked like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it either. I think the biggest concern for him is just health. It's been an up and down kind of tenure with the Cardinals in terms of his health. And for him, I think he has great stuff. But to Alex's point, we've seen bullpen arms just lose it like that. I'm concerned that Gio lost it after last year. So I would not extend Ryan Helsley because of the concerns with the health. I would just play out the system with him. And you can always find bullpen arms on the open market once Ryan Helsley gets to that spot. I mean, they got Middleton for $5 million this year, and he's a legitimately good bullpen arm. So, no, I would never extend a bullpen arm. I don't care how good they are.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you guys. I would not extend Ryan Helsley either, unless he's willing to take a deal similar to what Gio got. But if I'm Ryan Helsley, there's no reason for me to accept the deal that Gio got. Because if I get to market, I mean, Ryan Helsley could legitimately get like a 3-year, $60 million contract by somebody. It sounds crazy here in St. Louis because there's a lot of uncertainty with that. But if I'm a team and I'm on the verge of being able to be not only a contender, but a World Series champion, and that's the final piece to unlocking it is, hey, get the guy that can pitch the ninth for you, he's worth it. He's worth it. In a big market where you do have some of that payroll flexibility, I think he's the type of player that you would want to go after. All right, an update today from the Cardinals down in
big news
in Florida.
Big news.
Is there?
Did you see it?
I must have missed it. I wasn't going to give a big news.
Oh, big news. Dylan Carlson took
Goes
one
yard.
deep.
Did he?
Hitting from the right side.
Oh, well. From the right side, he's pretty good.
It was a right-handed pitcher.
105 miles an hour off of the bat.
Oh, yeah, that's what I meant.
105 miles an hour off the bat.
Yeah, the wind,
that's real.
The wind got a lot of it, though. All right, so Carlson in center field, Burleson in left, and Victor Scott in the minors.
It was a home run in 29 out of 30 parks. It would not have been a home run in Arizona.
What about Busch Stadium?
Good thing we don't play there a lot.
Way to go. Way to go, Dylan. All right, so
Nolan
Victor Scott
Gorman had a flyout earlier that would have been a home run in 22 MLB stadiums. So
well, it's not 30.
Nice one for him. Victor Scott, unfortunately, had to go up against Duran. Grounded out.
Good luck.
nobody
Wait,
nobody
Carlson
gets a hit
homer off of? Tell me it wasn't Duran.
Justin Topa.
Oh, okay.
So
I don't know who that is.
So what you're saying is Victor Scott can't hit against the elite.
Nobody hits against him. I think it was like an 080 batting average against him.
Time to be patient and put him back in the minors and let him grow.
Justin Topa last year, by the way, was very good for Seattle. 75 innings, had a 2.6 ERA for them. So, I mean, that's not nothing. Good for Dylan Carlson. He needed that. He needed that in a really bad way because it's been a rough go of it for him. Alec Burleson, by the way, another double against Justin Topa as well.
And he had a diving catch yesterday. Like, that dude has played himself into a starting position in left field. And now it really, and I know we talked earlier about how it Carlson versus Burleson. I think Burleson solidified it. I think you're still talking about the center field spot.
104 mile per hour single, by the way, from Ivan Herrera today as well, also off of Justin Topa. So maybe Justin Topa just doesn't have
all right, so 2000.
Oh, why would you jump to that conclusion? This offense is awesome.
2004 offense is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Riley O'Brien getting ready to head into the game for the Cardinals. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll hit the BK and Ferrario Rewind. By the way, Selection Sunday is almost here. Get signed up to play in this year's Bracket Madness Pick'em Challenge at 101ESPN.com. Free to enter, and this year's top score is taking home a $250 Amazon gift card and a 101 ESPN prize pack. See contest rules right now over at 101ESPN.com. Bracket Madness is brought to you by Bud Light and by Twin Peaks. Coming up next, we'll play a game of Believe It or Not here on 101 ESPN.
Ted Drew's famous frozen custard officially open for its 95th season off of Chippewa. You know the famous destination to get that famous frozen custard. And when it comes down to it, so many traditions are being built at Ted Drew's where people are out enjoying time with their family. It really is a piece of St. Louis history to stop by and get that famous frozen custard. And now it's going to start getting warmer out. The sun's out. It's a great way to end your evening with Ted Drew's famous frozen custard. And look, you can get whatever flavors you want. You can mix and match. I personally love the Oreo concrete. Takes me back to when I was 10 years old going out to Ted Drew's famous frozen custard. While you're out there, walk across the parking lot off of Chippewa and check out their gift shop where you can shop a ton of Ted Drew's apparel. You could get t-shirts, you can get hats, you can get drinkware, gift cards, which let me tell you, that is the perfect gift to give somebody who you never know what to buy them, is Ted Drew's famous frozen custard. Get on out there later on today, this week, this spring, this summer, and enjoy that famous frozen custard. Ted Drew's, it really is good, guys and gals.
Tara Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues back in action tonight as they take on the LA Kings. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 5:30 with Alex Ferrario and Joey Vitale. Excuse me, and then Joey will join Chris Kerber for Puck Drop at 6:30. Emotional game, big game for the St. Louis Blues here today. Cardinals currently taking on the Twins. Cardinals taking on the Twins in spring trading action. They lead 1-0 in the bottom of the 7th. The Sports Center update was brought to you. Saliga Heating Cooling and Mid-America Standard Heating and Air Conditioning Dealer.
$100 for somebody to do the T-Bone edition. Believe it or
Nothing just happened. Move on. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so
free, flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be?
Believe it or not, it's just me.
Hold on, what the hell was that?
Look, man, ruin things on your own time.
Yeah, man.
I've got two things going on. One, my son is just in a constant state of sickness, which means that I'm in a constant state of sickness, so I've got a little something going on in the
You were
throat.
in a constant state of sickness before the kid. Don't blame Luka.
Yeah, think about Luka.
You've been in a constant state of sickness for the last 3 years.
Two, I was attempting to do a T-bone, and then it threw it into a whole different octave. A lot of stuff going on.
You went like full soprano on me there. Not the good soprano.
Look, sometimes it catches you by surprise, everybody, okay?
Believe it or not, T-Bone threw up in his mouth when he did that update. The Cardinals.
No, I mean, I was talking about the Blues. It would make sense.
Sorry, I wasn't listening because I heard a...
Sometimes you get a little frog in your throat, man.
That wasn't a frog. That was a toad.
All right, guys, believe it or not, by the end of the season, we're talking about the Cardinals having 6 starting caliber outfielders.
What? Who the hell are you counting?
What are we defining as starting caliber?
Jordan Walker.
Okay.
Yeah. Tommy Edman.
Sure.
Yeah, that wrist is going to work.
Yeah, if he's healthy.
If his ribs aren't broken.
Victor Scott. Brendan Donovan.
No, Donovan won't be. Not believe it.
Not believe it either. I think once they solidify the outfield, they will say we no longer, Tommy Edman no longer an outfielder.
Yeah.
More Brendan Donovan would be the one that I would point to, and maybe even Alec Burleson, honestly.
I think both Edman and Donovan become, what's his face from the Dodgers, Chris Taylor, where you're using them in super utility roles off of the bench. Your bench gets stronger. I think by the end of the season or the time frame that you had, you're going to have 4 legit starting outfielders. And I don't even know if you'd consider Burleson a legit starting outfielder. The bat is what's going to make you believe he is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'm going to believe it, by the way. I think that these guys all end up proving themselves more than capable, and they win 85 games.
By the way.
Michael Sinise?
No, Dylan Carlson. Or
Did I not mention Carlson?
No, you didn't. Or Sinise. Oh, throw him in there. Not a big deal. Man, I thought we were getting rid of the log jam of outfielders this season.
Yeah, well, that's kind of part of the point, right? Okay, cool. So we've got all this surplus.
No, all we did was get rid of O'Neal.
We don't have enough pitching.
We have enough pitching.
No, we don't.
And oh, by the way, I didn't mention JC, who should probably be getting opportunities out there as well. Alex, what do you got?
Believe it or not, boys, Justin Jefferson will be a Cincinnati Bengal by next season.
Not.
Did you see this stuff of, like, potentially the Bengals offering a deal to try and trade for him?
Yes.
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah,
Jamar Chase was trying to do it.
He's not going to be a Bengal. I also don't think he's going to be a long-term Viking. I don't think he's going to
trade him to the AFC, though.
I think they should, I know this sounds crazy. I don't think that Justin Jefferson is the missing piece for the Vikings team that's going to win 5 years from now. Because I don't think this team is winning anything meaningful for a few years. You're not in your winning window right now. They should absolutely run it back this season. They should draft a quarterback in the first round. And if it hits, cool. Sign him long term because now you've got the money because your quarterback is making peanuts. But if it doesn't, if he's just okay, yeah, man, they're probably going to have to consider trading Justin Jefferson. And it's going to feel crazy at the time. But what's also crazy is paying a guy $35 million to waste away as a wide receiver without a quarterback. Instead, get a boatload of assets from another team to figure out if you can find your quarterback that way. Like that, it sounds crazy. Chiefs just did this with Tyreek Hill. Eventually, you've got to make that salary work, and you've got to recoup some assets for it. It worked out for the Vikings last time around when they traded Stephon Diggs. That also felt crazy at the time, but it worked for him. So I'm going to say not believing it that he's a Bengal, but I'm also not believing that he's going to be a long-term Viking unless they really nail their quarterback this year.
Yeah, that's where I am. I'm not going to believe that he's going to end up being a Bengal, but I don't think he's going to end up being a Viking long-term. And honestly, I don't think he should be a Viking long-term after seeing what their plan is. Where he goes, I don't know. Alex, you're probably right. It probably is the AFC because I wouldn't trade him into the NFC if I'm the Vikings. I don't know who the perfect fit is right now. I mean, it could be somebody that maybe if it's New England, or New England ends up hitting on their quarterback, whoever they draft, if they draft a quarterback, maybe they end up then all of a sudden flipping assets to go get a Jefferson and lock him up long term.
T-Bone?
Guys, believe it or not, we will see Dylan Cease with the Texas Rangers.
I think if he's traded, that's the spot. There was a report just a little bit ago that the Yankees' mind has remained unchanged. It kind of went against what Ken Rosenthal had said earlier today, although Ken Rosenthal didn't really go in on it. He was focusing mostly on the Rangers. But there's a new report from New York that, hey, they're fine. They're not going to worry about this. This says the Garrett Cole injury is not incentivizing them to go get Blake Snell or Dylan Cease. So we'll see on that. I think if he's traded, it's the Rangers, but I'm going to say not. I think he is still going to be in the White Sox rotation on opening day. I believe Dylan Cease will be traded at the deadline. I think that's when we see movement on that front.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be the Rangers. I'm going to not believe this one. I don't know where he goes, but I believe if the Rangers get healthy as they go, which is a tough ask, and especially if you're talking about 3 legit weapons, I don't know if Texas is going to want to spend assets to go get that piece. I could see another team swooping in. I don't know who it could be. It's going to be one of these sleeper teams that come out of nowhere and say, like, yeah, we're a playoff contender, and Dylan Cease makes us that.
See, I actually am going to believe this. I think they're going to pull off a deal here soon. I think it makes the most sense. Like, right now, you look at their rotation, it's like Cardinals-esque. And like the Cardinals are not going to settle for that. I love the way that the Rangers operate by just stockpiling starting pitching. They don't look at it and say, we've got a 5-man rotation. They go, no, somebody's going to break. We need multiple arms. And when we get to the postseason, hell, they become a bullpen arm for us, and we can kind of just piece things together like they did last year. I think you're looking at the Rangers going into the postseason, by the way, with a rotation of Cease, Scherzer, DeGrom, Malley, and then insert maybe another one if they need it. But they know how to operate. They know how to build their pitching staff. I think they're going to get it done. Now, I would say this. I do find it a little alarming that all of a sudden the White Sox went from we're going to hold them till the deadline to going, oh, hey, we're back open for business. Hey,
I think that's because this is a deadline of sorts, right? Like, you have multiple different windows.
Wrong.
Maybe. You have multiple different windows, though, for transactions. I think the same thing is true right now, a different Chicago team with Justin Fields. I think what's happening with the Bears is they're saying, okay, this was our first window. People are going through free agency, and if they don't get their guy in free agency, we're going to find the opening for a team that wanted a veteran, not a young player. They don't have the draft capital. Unfortunately, that team was probably Atlanta, or it was Pittsburgh, but they found their quarterbacks, right? So now you have to wait till the second window. The next window that's going to open up for the Bears is the draft. If people miss out, like if the Vikings miss out on their quarterback with their pick in the first round, they're probably going to have to circle back and say, okay, what is our plan? Are we really going to do this with Sam Darnold? Do we need to bring in some competition? There's other teams out there as well that fall into a similar kind of a conversation, Broncos being one of them. If they fail at getting their quarterback in the draft, there's only so many to go around, then maybe the Bears come back into play. I think the same thing is true right now for the White Sox. They tried to do it all offseason. Teams went about it. They tried to get their starters elsewhere. Now they've got another window right now prior to the start of the regular season. Teams have seen what they have in their rotation. Maybe they thought they would get better return than they have. Or there's an injury that pops up. St. Louis, New York, etc. They think they can maybe go ahead and get that deal done now. Sounds like it's not going to happen, though. I'm skeptical. I don't think it happens before opening day.
I did find it interesting that the White Sox manager, who probably should have been fired last year, did not commit to him being the opening day starter next year. Or, sorry, for this year.
All right, guys, believe it or not, these are coming from the text line now. We'll do these quick hitter style. Believe it or not, the Diamondbacks will make another deep playoff run in 2024.
I'll say believe it. I think they got a good roster, and I love their pitching, and we saw their speed. I'm going to believe this one.
I'm not going to believe it for now, but I can see it. They need a little bit of help. It's kind of like, how the Cardinals should be approaching this of get another starter. They've got 3 legitimate starters, and maybe 4 if Brandon Pfaadt ends up panning out. And they got a decent bullpen. I think they need a little bit of help, though, because they just don't match up well with the Dodgers. They don't match up with the Braves. But if they're dealing with injuries like they were last year, like the Dodgers were, where they had to throw Lance Lynn in the playoffs, then yeah, I think they have a chance to be a team that could go on a run. But right now, with everybody being healthy and kind of viewing it that way, I'm going to say not.
I'm going to say not as well. I think there's just too many great teams in the National League right now. Philly, Atlanta,
St.
the
Louis.
Dodgers. I think they're all ahead of them by a decent margin. Believe it or not, the Cardinals will finish closer to last in the division than in first this year. I'm not. I think they finish in first this year.
Say that again.
I think the Cardinals
Look
will
at me
finish
when
in
you say
first
it.
place in the NL Central.
Look me in the
year
eye.
of our Lord, 2020.
Look me in the eye and say it.
I just told you.
No, you looked at your computer.
I'll believe this.
The St. Louis Cardinals
He looked at you
in
because
the
he
year
knows you're.
2024
He's not looking at you.
will finish in first place in the NL Central with 87 wins.
All right, Graveyard, get them.
Get him.
I will, believe it or not,
Did you have to figure out what the game was again?
I'm working on it. I'll say they finish closer to last place. I think they finish third. I really do.
Which would be right in the middle. But
Yeah, but I think because the Pirates and the Brewers are going to hang around, I think they'll be closer on paper that way.
believe it or not, the Cardinals will fire Mo if history repeats itself from last season.
Not.
I'm believing it. They'll do a mutual parting of ways. Mo will say I'm retiring. Cardinals will say it's time for us
last
to turn.
year.
Yeah.
So yeah, but he's not going to get fired. It's going to be.
He's got one more year, right?
I
thought this was his last year. Regardless, it's not. They're not firing him. If it's mutual parting of ways, fine, but it's not going to be fired. It will not be labeled as firing.
Yeah, so I'll not believe it because of that technicality. But I said this in the office today. I can't get over the way that he operated based on the notion of that this could be a season where he is fired, in air quotes, mutual parting of ways. And they decided to basically be conservative and be more cautious in saying, well, just in case this does go south, let's prepare to blow it up. When you're not even going to be here. Like, think about that. That's not how you should operate, especially when you're in Mo's shoes about to retire and be drinking sangrias on the beach for a living. Frustrating.
So what I'm hearing is you love Mo.
No.
I
Blow
believe
ain't
it.
any better either, by the way.
I don't think that it's going to be a repeat of last year, though. I don't think they're built on the same quicksand that they were a year ago. There are real questions about this team, and I understand being down on them going into the season. It's more than reasonable.
My fears we're actually in quicksand and we're just going to sink slowly and slowly and slowly.
I just don't think that the bottom falls out on this. I think that this team has a better infrastructure than it did a year ago. It would be my personal belief on it. All right, that's Alex. He's T-Bone on BK. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Coming up next, we'll finish this thing off with the BK and Ferrario Rewind here on 101 ESPN. Alex, so far today, we've been watching all day long the conference tournaments, and that is because it is the month of March. The calendar turned, and that means that I had the Circa Sports app ready to go at my fingertips. Circa Sports is the largest sports book in Vegas, and now it is available in the state of Illinois. This is sports betting the way that it was supposed to be. Alex, they're going to have the tight money line splits. They're not going to limit you whenever you start winning over there, and you're going to do a whole lot of winning over there. So So be sure to get the Circa Sports Illinois app today.
That tight money line split that BK was talking about, all of that is Circa Sports keeping as little money as possible on those large market bets. Kind of like what you're going to be doing with this tournament taking place in college basketball. And look, I make the big parlays. They're making sure that you keep as much money possible, and so much so that they tell you to go investigate some of the other sports book apps. They know you'll come back. Also, because of that customer service, they know that you'll come back. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER or text ILGAMB to 833-234.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, you got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. If you've missed anything from today's show, there was a really good interview earlier today, in my opinion, with Eddie Olczyk. It's all because of him, nothing that we did. You can check that full interview out at 101ESPN.com, the free 101 ESPN app, or on YouTube at youtube.com/101ESPN. That podcast is brought to you by
Dobbs Tire and Auto Center.
By the way, 314 Day is just a day away. You can plan to spend it with the Battlehawks coming up tomorrow at Ballpark Village. Celebrate all things St. Louis. The event is free to attend. It will feature fan favorite activities, ticket giveaways, so much more. The Fast Lane will be broadcasting live from 2 to 6 o'clock over at Ballpark Village, courtesy of Sumner One. To check out all the details, how you can get involved, 101ESPN.com is the place to go. All right, let's go down to Jupiter, where the Cardinals are playing right now in a tie tie 1-1 ball game against the Minnesota Twins. A few updates for you. Victor Scott 1 for 3 today. Did make contact all 3 times. Did not strike out at all. Had 1 hard hit ball in that game. Dylan Carlson 1 for 3 as well. Hit a home run in the game. Alec Burleson, another nice game for him. 1 for 3 with a double. Von Herrera picking up a hit as well. 0 for 3 day with 2 strikeouts for Mason Wynn. But the real headliners, in my opinion, guys, it was Scott, Carlson, and Alec Burleson all having a nice day offensively today.
It was. But before we talk about that, let's fly down to Jupiter.
We already did that.
I thought there was an open for it.
No, we did. Come on, pay attention.
Okay. Well, then go ahead with what you were talking about.
Riley O'Brien gave up a run, by the way, too. But I think he's going to make the team. But I did find it today was the first day that I truly believe that Scott is number 1 on the depth chart in center field.
Even after Dylan Carlson had his day?
Look, I mean, even with that home run, his OPS still is lackluster compared to Victor Scott's 890 because I look at Carlson's 620. So it did spike up a lot with that home run. That significantly helped him, and it helped the average. But when all of a sudden, I mean, we mentioned it the day Nootbaar got hurt last Friday. To me, their best defensive alignment outfield-wise would be Victor Scott in center, Carlson in left, and Walker in right. And when they went with that outfield today for the first time, it made me truly believe that Victor Scott is number 1 on their depth chart in center field as of today.
See, the hard part with that for me is if Alec Burleson's hitting like he is, he has to be in your lineup. And where are you playing him? Because it can't be DH if you're getting both Donovan and Gorman into the lineup. And that comes down to, are you just forced to play Dylan Carlson in center because of Burleson's bat? Or are you forced to put Dylan Carlson on the bench because of Victor Scott's better defense and better base running ability?
Yeah, I think you just platoon. I think you platoon it. Dylan Carlson, if you're going up against a left-handed pitcher, he's going to be in left field for me. If you're going up against a right-handed pitcher, I'm going to have Alec Burleson out there. And if they switch it mid-game, if you bring in the first reliever, if there's a high-leverage spot, Dylan Carlson is due up to the plate. They bring in a righty to be able to face him. Boom, I'm going to go ahead and go to my bench there. And Alec Burleson, going to be the first bat off of the bench from the left side. I don't have to go to Carpenter there. I don't have to go to Brandon Crawford. That's just going to be the way that I go about it. On the pitching side of things, they had back-to-back days where they were able to see Matthew Liberatore and Zach Thompson. Libby, there were some moments yesterday where it sounds like the manager was really impressed with him. He did hit 97 miles an hour. Good for him. The results weren't great, though. You look at it today, Zach Thompson, it's almost the opposite, right? Like there were some questions about his velocity. We'll see if that was maybe a baseball savant thing or if that was a real thing where his velo was down. We'll see with some of the answers later on. But 4 innings, no hits, no earned runs, 5 strikeouts and a walk. The hitters clearly showed you whether it was the velocity was down or not. Thompson had a really nice day. So if you're looking at who's winning that battle right now, we talked a lot about center field, left field. Another spot is that number 5 spot in the rotation. Zach Thompson is very clearly the best guy for that job right now.
The interesting part with that, too, is if Sonny Gray is going to be healthy like he's acting like he's going to be, I don't know if Zach Thompson earns a spot on opening day roster if he's pitching this well. I think they will put him in the minors and tell him you're our starter when something goes wrong.
You're saying if
Sonny Gray is healthy and ready to go. Because if he's not, it's very obvious, and I don't think there's anybody who would push back on this. Thompson is the better pitcher over Matthew Liberatore. Thompson is going to start in the minors if Sonny Gray's healthy, and I think people might be frustrated with it. But it makes sense, especially with 3 guys that, in my opinion, really 4 guys, in my opinion, are injury risk this season.
Yeah, and they keep talking about maybe going to a 6-man, so maybe that's how they explore it. I wouldn't do it. Maybe you carry him as a guy that can piggyback with somebody. But right now, everybody seems to be at least stretched out and seems to be, depending on Gray, but he's not starting from 0. So whenever he starts throwing, he should be on program as well. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Thompson. I think there's a chance they maybe carry him just to have a long reliever on the roster because you typically like that early on in the season. But I don't know. They may send him down, and honestly, I wouldn't have a problem with it because all their other bullpen options have looked pretty good so far
and
this
Ollie
spring.
being optimistic about Liberatore, I wonder if that's trying to fluff it up to say be in our bullpen. Yeah, he's here for us.
Last thing here, bit of news. Aaron Rodgers could potentially be the running mate for RFK Jr. So that is one other thing that I did want to add here. RFK has announced that 2 weeks from now, he will be announcing his VP selection. He will do so in Oakland, just as a bit of editorializing here. Aaron Rodgers did play football in college in Oakland. He's from California. Aaron Rodgers.
But he's
Jets
in New York right now.
And Vice President of the United States. Could be happening. All right, tomorrow we'll be back with you guys at 11 a.m. The Fast Lane's coming up next here on 101 ESPN. It's BK, and it is time to unlock your inner champion. Did you wake up today just not feeling the same? Maybe you had a decrease in your sleep patterns. Your mood's not quite what it once was. When you go to the gym, you don't get the same results as you once did. All of those are potentially symptoms of low testosterone, and they can test you for it over at Victory Men's Health. VictoryMen'sHealth.com is one place to go to find out more about them, or you could just go into one of their 4 great locations across the St. Louis area. They have one in O'Fallon, Missouri, another in O'Fallon, Illinois, and then 2 other great locations, Town and Country, and the newest location is in Sunset Hills, Missouri, opened up just last month. They can help you out by going over there today. Again, VictoryMen'sHealth.com is the place where you can go for more information, whether it is that you're looking for testosterone treatments, you want help with some weight loss, you've been trying for years, they can help you out the right way over at Victory Men's Health. If you have erectile dysfunction issues as well, they can help you out with that. It's all available for you at Victory Men's Health and VictoryMen'sHealth.com.